Have any questions before we get started for us?
I mean, I've been talking to Calin on and off for the better part of a year now, a year plus probably actually.
Yeah.
So I get the gist of the style of book he's doing. I know that it's like more, I think, stylistic than biographical in terms of its depth, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you'd be right about that.
But at the same time, like from my perspective, like this is a fun thing to do, but I think there might be multiple conversations possibly still if there's time, because I kind of want to barrage you with everything and then let you pick the gems, because I will certainly forget 85% of the good stuff to talk about tonight. Like it's absolutely.
That's great.
We started with, we've talked to quite a few people already, and sorry.
Yeah, so Jay, just to set the scene, so I've spoken to you, we've had like 2 long conversations over video calls previously, and at that time I didn't really have too much to go on. I wasn't in contact with too many photographers, I didn't know too many people in and around Soybomb, so I was kind of trying to figure things out. So I started working with Stephen based on a recommendation of somebody else I knew who worked on who published the the Not Dead Yet Toronto Hardcore in the 80s. Sorry, it was called Tomorrow Is Too Late, Toronto Hardcore in the 80s book, UXB Press. I emailed them. I was like, what are you guys all about? Turns out it was someone I knew through other people. And then he recommended that I start working with Stephen, who has a wealth of connections and friends. He's been in the hardcore scene since the 80s in Toronto, so he knows a lot of people. So Stephen connected me with so many people we could speak to and photographers. And so since I last spoke to you, Jay, it's really taken off, and we have a lot of stuff to work with. So yeah, it's a much better position. So like we've spoken to well over a dozen people at this point, and that's really given us the kind of context to be able to come back to you and be like, all right, now we know kind of what questions to ask and where to take things. And I'm happy to hear that you're open to multiple conversations, because I think it's going to necessitate that.
Yeah.
And you're right that, we don't want to lean too biographical, but at the same time, it is something that you created. So you are going to be definitely one of the focal points of the whole book. So yeah, do you want to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let me do one thing. So I've made a command in the chat. So like that.
Are we live streaming right now? Are people watching us?
Yes, we are live. There's at least a handful of people hanging out. And
up, guys.
The commands. I got to just do I got to make a timer. 1 second here. New timer. This is gonna like post some stuff in the chat. Let's see if that works. Let's see. Jordan Smith. Is that the Jordan Smith I know? Oh, it worked. The timer worked. Okay, so I've made an automatic timer that's gonna post every 5 minutes. That seems a bit much. Should I change that? Let's go every 15 minutes. Then, so that link you have to that Google document for submissions and stuff, Calen, I put that so that will automatically post in the chat. People can see that. They can click on it if they want to participate.
Brilliant.
And that can be without us having to like spam it ourselves or mention it or etc. Manage it.
That's great. That's such a good idea.
This is why
set that up just so people can just throw their stuff in. And
oh geez. All right. So that is done. I think almost ready.
Are we gonna get to see your face?
Oh, you guys can't see my face. Oh shoot. Let's see how I can do that. Camera. Virtual camera, will that work? Is this working? Not working. I didn't even think about that. People can see my face on the stream, but you guys can't see it in the thing. Give me 1 second. So much technical stuff.
I'm gonna put Buffy right up to the mic and see if you guys can hear her purring.
Yep, 100%. What kind of cat is Buffy?
Buffy is a domestic medium hair. She's one that we adopted two cats in November, and we adopted her and her sister.
Awesome.
Her sister's name is Juice, and they're two medium hair cats. They're very cuddly, very needy, very annoying.
The kitties.
Same,
Trying
man.
to make sure. See, I'm using the camera in the stream, so I can't.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Use it in the thing as well, but there is a way potentially for me to.
Maybe just open the Twitch.
Yeah, you can open the Twitch link and see my camera on that if you needed to.
It's all good. I think we can just keep going.
I know there's a way to make a virtual cam using software for the cam, and then that should be receivable by Discord, but for whatever reason it's not working, so I'm not sure if it. Apologies. I was literally like all afternoon. Oh, it wasn't turned on. I figured it out. So happy. Okay. Virtual cam on. Now. 3. And back on again.
Something's happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, though. But I can try the other option.
Apologies to everyone watching the live stream right now.
Watching a stroll.
It's not going to work, guys. Sorry.
Okay. All right. No worries. No worries. We can hear you. That's the important part.
All right. If you bring up the Twitch stream, you can see all of us and see me. So if that's of any consequence. Actually, I will post that. You guys have the link for the Twitch stream?
No, do you want to send that?
Okay, so you see, well, we're all in this channel called streaming. Right next to that, there's like a word balloon that says open chat. Click on that. Type in there. So that's the Twitch channel we're on.
All right. And we are live. Soybomb HQ. Ooh, I can see myself, unfortunately. I'm just going to close that. All right. I can see you. Looking good.
All right.
All right, man.
Now.
So let's get into it because we can just get started. So like I was saying, man, we have a whole lot of we've talked to a lot of people. We've got a lot of photos from kind of like the heyday, the kind of peak of operations. Paul has also very graciously lent his time and effort into putting together an interview or answering an interview document. I know he's ramping up on tour stuff, so I'm gonna stop bugging him about that. But it's on its way. It's on its way. But yeah, we kind of need your assistance in covering some of the early years, covering some of that ground. So I guess we can just start from the beginning. Yeah, I know you're going to hear a bunch of questions that I've asked you before.
Yep.
Just answer them again on the official record.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Where'd you grow up?
Kind of across Canada. So I was born in Saint Jean-Bier, outside of Montreal, a suburb of Montreal. and was there with, at the time, my Jehovah's Witness father and mother. And they split up when I was 3, and he had custody, and my brother, him and I moved back to where he was from, Swan River, Manitoba. So that's 6 hours north of Winnipeg. So my elementary school years was in Swan River, Manitoba. And high school years, we moved to Gravenhurst in grade 8. So my dad met his second wife, and then they split up, and then decided to get back together. So she moved back to where she was from, which is Gravenhurst. And then, so when they decided to get back together, Dad packed Blue and I, my brother's name is Blue, me and Blue up, and moved everything to Gravenhurst, and was there from grade 8 into high school. Bracebridge, the area, Muskoka area. It was Gravenhurst at first, but then they actually divorced a couple years later, and then we were off to like Bala, Port Carling. But I went to first year Gravenhurst High School, then later Bracebridge High School, BMLSS. So that was my upbringing, and then post high school, I ping ponged between the Bracebridge area and Toronto, back and forth at different stages of my life. Then moved down permanently when I was 29, when I joined the graphic design production program at George Brown, and that's how. And I've been here since then, which was 2000, fall of 2000.
Wow, so that's all over the place, man. Yeah. That's quite an education in Canada.
Yeah, it's those are the geographic broad strokes. I calculated at one point the amount of times I've moved in my life, because there's also moving to different locations in those areas due to whatever circumstances. So Jordan Smith, he knows, I've moved over 30 something times in my life, like different actual residences. Actually living at Soybomb, and now this place where I live with Suzanne, are the longest times I've actually lived anywhere in one spot my entire life. Soybomb was number 1, and I think this one's, or Soybomb I think is actually number 2 now, and this one's number 1. But yeah. So
wow.
So yeah, and then along those lines, my dad's a carpenter, divorcee, not full custody of all his kids, working poor. It's been all that rural, like, poor living definitely gave me a lot of education into a lot of things, like firsthand. And I think that inadvertently shaped me to where we got to.
Yeah, no kidding. That's some real formative years you spent just kind of moving around.
Yeah.
So then how did you get into the music that you're into, and also skateboarding? Those are two sides of the coin that is Soybomb.
Okay. I could tell you the exact moments that were key moments that led me on my musical like pathway. If I go back far enough, I can probably go to like the Smurfs, which is just this demented like thing. Like you look at this. Okay, so I grew up like obviously way pre-internet. Sorry, I got a beer overflowing here. Why has it got to be so bubbly? All right, so so
this is all going in the book verbatim, by the way.
Yeah, verbatim. So when I was a kid, the interest I took in music, which was ever just sounded kind of like a little bit off kilter, and whatever I found interesting as a kid, the things I found interesting were the Smurfs, and then a little bit later Iron Maiden record covers, then eventually Iron Maiden themselves, and Michael Jackson, and what else could I figure? Oh, the Nutty Numbers 8-track compilation cassette from K-Tel, and there was another K-Tel record I had. There's a compilation called Solid Gold Hits. And from this smattering of music in like my pre-10-year-old era, I gravitated to the stuff that was dark and weird, like stuff that had Vincent Price on it, who's coincidentally both on Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, and Michael Jackson. Yeah, so it was like already I've got some like musical pattern recognition going on here, and realizing there's things happening, underneath the hood, of what we perceive as music. Anyways, so all this like paying attention to just oddball stuff that just enthused me coalesced at the age of 11, 12, if I had to guess, maybe 11. And there was and this is Swan River, Manitoba, and this is pretty much music, but there used to be like a music video TV shows that would be like Friday nights or whatever, and I think it was like 10, 11, midnight on whatever broadcaster. My beer is so overflowing. Couldn't tell you the show, but on one evening, like I caught the show irregularly. I was a child. I wasn't generally allowed to stay up that late, but once in a blue moon, the parents might be like out being social and drunk and passed out, so I could watch TV late. And one of these nights, the episode had Human League, which I took an interest to, with Don't You Want Me, and it was the release of the new single Keep Feeling Fascination. And there's a dark bend to their music, at least those two singles. In that same episode, they covered David Bowie's new album Lodger, and they showed the video for Ashes to Ashes, which is, dark and weird as shit. And then they also covered the Pink Floyd The Wall movie that was coming out. So this is me as a kid just being introduced to all this stuff for the first time, and just all of it's like seems really fucking cool. Like it's not pop music, it's not plain rock and roll, it's some dark demented shit. It's the Human League, Pink Floyd, the Wall album, and they're showing footage from that movie too, which is also dark and demented. And then dark. And then that episode finished off as the credits are rolling, and they're playing a live footage of Iron Man by Black Sabbath, like them live in concert. And it took me years to even remember what that even was. And then one day I heard it, I'm like, oh, that's that song I heard on that show like 8 years ago or whatever. Like it was 8 years before I realized that was Sabbath, right? So that one episode of all this music let me realize that there's some musical representation of some really interesting ideas that you don't hear on Top 40 radio. And at the time, I was obsessed with Top 40 radio. I would stay up Sunday nights, Casey Kasem's Top 40, and I would record on cassettes the Top 40, and then listen back to it throughout the week. I was obsessed with music. In hindsight, I know now that I was definitely a little bit like on the spectrum nerd, right? Like I'm adult diagnosed ADHD, and I haven't been tested for autism, but the more I read about it, the more I look at me, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Apparently everyone who's known me, yeah. And apparently everyone who's known me in the last 20 years is like, yeah, we knew Jay. Oh, I didn't know. But anyways, so that special interest, that focus, just obsession with music, I started, I could say I started lifting up stones, looking for the crawly things underneath. But again, I'm a child. I'm in, at the time, rural North Manitoba, pre-internet. There wasn't a lot of stones to lift up. Like, if I didn't randomly catch something in, like music journalism on television or something, I wasn't finding anything. But eventually, the move to Muskoka happened, and while that didn't necessarily like give me much more access, I met friends who were also into music, which wasn't really a thing yet. Also, I should say, before we move to the thing, there was things I noticed in like popular music that was forming and changing too, like Motley Crue and like hair metal was becoming a thing, and I didn't take too strongly to hair metal because hair metal just seemed to be a bit heavier, like boring rock, but they presented themselves like really shockingly, and I did take a little bit of an interest in that because it's like it wasn't, and again, I didn't think at the time like of mainstream, but it was like, it was a counterculture. It was like a what do you call it? Not a lashing, but like just artists representing themselves
a little bit rebellious.
in opposition to what is the status quo, right?
Yeah.
I'd yet to
Yeah.
discover punk rock or anything, but there's all these cultural hints, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Okay, so we moved to Muskoka area, and then I start to discover the mainstream new wave movement, like all the bands that came out of probably like the British new wave movement and stuff like trying to think of names now, but even something like the Thompson Twins, and like there's all these bands that are like, it's popular music, but I wouldn't even call them like very like super interesting artists overall, but they would have the odd song that would be a bit dark and weird, and I took a shining to that. And so I started focusing on certain artists, and that led me to the magazine stands at drugstores and whatnot, where there's like music press aimed at like tweens like myself, and they would have some of these artists that I knew. Like Depeche Mode was actually a big one for me. Depeche Mode was my gateway drug. And later that in the next year, Love and Rockets would release the Ball of Confusion single and the Seven Dream of Teenage Heaven album, and those two things were the gateway to me finding those magazines. Which and the backs of these magazines, they had mail order, and in the back of these mail order, you'd see things like Dead Kennedys, Sex Pistols, Exploited, like all these like punk bands and things that you did not see hide nor hair of in any mainstream music press or any you wouldn't see that on the magazine stands. You wouldn't see that on Much Music, which was now a thing. And so I just a hint that there was a seedy underbelly to the music industry that I'd yet to get my hands on, but I knew it was there. So now I was starting to understand there's a thing called punk, and like artists that weren't punk were referencing punk in interviews and stuff. And so I started like just the radar's full blast looking for punk. One of the biggest things that happened to me at the age of 13 was watching the movie Return of the Living Dead, the Dan O'Bannon flick. Phenomenal soundtrack, highly recommend it, the movie and the soundtrack to everyone. But that movie includes like TSOL, the Cramps, and a bunch of like the Damned, and just a whole bunch of punk bands on it. And it took me years to get my hands on the soundtrack, but the movie itself, it's these punks who like fight and get zombies in a graveyard, and it's a phenomenal flick. But that blew the doors wide open. That same year, Sid and Nancy came out, so that's my introduction to the idea of what the Sex Pistols were. I picked up Nevermind the Bollocks on cassette, like within that same year. And so again, my access to all this is limited. Like I am lifting up every stone, and I'm lifting up 1,000 stones to find one
still in
little
Manitoba?
morsel. Yeah, no, this is now Gravenhurst, or at this point actually Port Carling.
Right.
But
so still pretty far away from the city. You're still even Muskoka, like when you get to Muskoka, that's still kind of
there's no internet yet, right?
Yeah.
What age are you at this point?
I'm not yet in highs. I would say that at this point I'm like this crucial point in my life is grade 8 to grade 9. And
Is that 13, 14, 15?
I think I left
13.
grade 8, 14, and I think
Early teens.
Yeah, and I think I turned 15 in grade 9. But
pretty crucial years in anybody's life, and that's really kind of when you discover.
But
most people discover the music that they like.
None of this stuff you'd find in the record stores, record store in Gravenhurst or Bracebridge. So it was like, the next. I know I'm going into a lot of detail here. And you just asked me a simple question, but this is how the brain
No, it's
works.
not simple. This good detailed answer.
So that the end of grade 8, there's a class trip to Toronto. And we happened to hit like an HMB or whatever it was in the Eaton Center, or not Eaton, Yorkdale, while we're waiting to leave. And that in there, I wanted to get the 11 Rockets cassette, but they only it was sold out. My friend Derek bought the only cassette, so I bought the 12-inch single for Ball of Confusion. But there was also a Dead Kennedys record, Frankenchrist, on vinyl. So I grabbed that. I'm like, I'd seen this band's name a bunch in the like mail orders in the back of the magazine, so I might as well just check this out. I mean, I didn't get the one thing I wanted, so I'll get this. And that was it, right? That summer, I'm going into detail, I'm sorry. That summer, I met a fellow stock boy at the IGA in Port Carling who one day wore a Depeche Mode t-shirt to work, and I was like, oh, Depeche Mode, I like them. And I was the only kid I knew that liked the Depeche Mode in Muskoka, right? And so then we get talking, and then he starts talking about all these bands that I knew. Like I knew about like Levin Rockets, and he knew about Bauhaus, the band that existed before Levin Rockets, and he had like a whole bunch of like punk and hardcore compilation records and like all this music that I only dreamed I could listen to at this point, because I knew it existed, but I had no access. And so I would spend like any chance I got, I would go to his house. And he didn't live in Port Carling. His parents were like a nurse and a dentist from Toronto, and they had a cottage on the river there. And I would just go to his place and have records, and I would just bring cassettes and record all his shit. So that was like a big deal. And then I go into grade 9, just like a full-on convert. Again, no access, pre-internet, nothing in the record stores. I just knew that like the sound, the aesthetic, the undercurrent of like frustration with society was just like, that's all I cared about. And I couldn't find it. So I literally spent my middle area of high school visiting 60s music, because that was close to counterculture as I could get, to be honest with you, like during that era of growing up. And then as I hit like 17, 18, 19, that's when I could get the odd trip to the city and then started buying records. And it was probably like 18. It was probably 18 years old when I made a $100 purchase at Sam the Record Man's on a trip. I got the first Jane's Addiction record before they really knew of them. Just by luck, I just liked the record cover. I got like a Jello Biafra spoken word. I got a Bauhaus, the BBC sessions, just all this stuff that I'd known about and had no access to, and I just dove in, and then that was it. And then every single...
It's crazy thinking about how much access you have now to everything you could possibly want to listen to.
Too much.
It's too much access, but also, when you have no... it's interesting you say you just bought a record because you liked how the cover looks. Some of my favorite records have just been, I've just walked in and been like, that looks really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what they sound like, but I'm going to listen to it. That was when the price of records was a little bit more affordable. It's gotten out of control.
Well, growing up, even like teenage and young adult years in Muskoka, there was no like Calen, CHRY,
you weren't doing your show yet.
88.1. Yeah, but there was counterculture stuff on the college stations, but you couldn't get that broadcast.
Yeah, the broadcast is.
Yeah, you couldn't even get CFNY. Like you couldn't even get 102.1, which you probably could now. Not that's a good thing, but you probably could.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it now.
But so there's not even radio access for me, right? So there's no music press, there's no radio. Very culturally isolated from the things that I took an interest to. So it was always playing catch up whenever I had a little bit of access. So when I go to something like Vortex Records, I found when I was Stephen, you around Toronto then in the early 90s?
Oh yeah.
Vortex.
I grew up in Toronto.
Yeah, so Vortex used to be on Queen and Bathurst pretty much, just a little bit to the west there on the south side upstairs. And I used to go there, like anytime I come to the city, I'd go right there. There's a friend who knew this record store, told me about it, and I would grab whatever I thought I'd heard of and whatever looked cool. Like I kept seeing Big Black CDs and songs about fucking with just this cool, crazy Dayglow album cover, and it just like, I keep seeing this, I better get it, it's this eye-catching album cover. At the time too, like I was hanging out with some industrial punks, so they kind of got me into industrial music. So that was the overwhelming volume of music I was digesting at the time. But as the next few years went on, I noticed that the music I was liking in industrial music more and more was stuff that had guitars in it, and I just kind of gravitated away from industrial and the formulaic digital sounds and just more and more to guitar stuff. And then that's what the sub pop stuff started happening. So I really got into Mudhoney. And a lot of post-punk stuff. Again, like even at this point in my life, when I've accessed record stores in Toronto, I lived in Toronto at this point for a couple of years before I moved back to the city. So like it was college radio stations. Whenever I could catch a good show, I was learning things. But I think the overwhelming majority of like punk and hardcore of that era was under the radar for me. So I'm still catching up now when it comes to that, to be honest. So I don't know. That's, to me, that's the formative stuff, and that's what set me on the path. Going past that.
Let me ask you what some of your formative releases are. Like, you've gone through like some things of going in there, but like in terms of I guess punk, what are some, like,
it'd be a different thing every year, right? Yeah,
or top 5 desert island picks.
So every year was different and important, and some stuff I've not really listened to in forever, but I could pick the things that affected me deeply. So like Bauhaus's "The Sky Has Gone Out," like that was on repeat for a full year and a half, probably. A phenomenal record. Dead Kennedys, Frankenchrist. Public Image Limited, second edition. First album's okay. Everything after second edition is kind of like hit and miss, but second edition is a work of art from front to back. I think John Lydon's like Demented Warblings work on that record because of Jah Wobble and Keith. Those two were the backbone of what made that record probably one of the most important records in the history of music. Like, just straight up. I that's not even a record that, like, there are things I've come across that I'll obsess with for a month or 6 or 12 and then burn out on it and never really think about it too much. But second edition has never strayed from a favorite. Like, and this is, I don't know how many years, 30, 40 years, I don't know. So yeah, that's seminal, right? And all the stuff I did come across in post-punk and stuff that was important to me, even then, second edition stood out as like a gateway that like to me, like, using the occult as an analogy, and I wasn't into occult stuff other than aesthetically, but using occult as an analogy, like all this other stuff was a bunch of like, you know, poser witches, and like second edition was like you know, the Necronomicon. Like, there was stuff going on that I did not yet know about, but second edition was a clue that it existed, right? So anyways, that's a seminal record. Moving forward, I mean, there are Obsessions Metal Box released in 79. Yeah, it's crazy that it's even that early. I did for a short time become really into Pretty Hate Machine by Nine Inch Nails. This is like early mid 90s. Pixies, what you call it, Doolittle. Doolittle. Oh wait, not Doolittle, the one after Doolittle. Where is it, Doolittle? The one with Tame on it. That's Doolittle, right? I think it is. So that one Pixies record was important to me. I went through a Forgotten Rebels stint at one point. I listened to a lot of it for a year, even the offensive stuff. I know
more will come up as we keep talking.
Anyways, so important records, like, I know I'm missing some too. Like, at a certain point, like, I would say though that, like, musically, everything that I came across up until the mid 90s, everything I came across was still surface level because it's all I had access to. This is like the early 90s. Like, I'd been to Lollapalooza. I was really into Dinosaur Jr. for a half a decade. So like that Lollapalooza 93 was important to me because it was like Rage Against the Machine was, I remember they played that day. They're on first. It was the first time they actually played the main stage, was their Barrie stop, the Ontario stop. That was pretty wild seeing them. I saw, what's their names? Tool played the side stage. They weren't yet big enough to play a main stage. That's pretty funny. Sebado was on that tour, but they didn't play that stop, but I was really big into Sebado. The record before Bake Sale. It's funny, these are very important records to me. I can't always remember the titles too. Suzanne, what was the Sebado record before Bake Sale? You do know. She said, I don't know. Yeah, it's, so you can see like my interest jumped around a lot. I would Bubble and Scrape. That's it. Thank you, Small Talk.
I think what's interesting about that is that it shows that you're open to a lot of different types of music.
Indeed, it's
Made you very open.
it's whatever little worm climbs in my ear and just like starts screaming at me. But
I think that even shows through the bands that were booked all the way through Soybomb too, because it wasn't just punk and hardcore shows too.
Yeah.
There was a pretty wide range of acts that played there. I want to talk a little bit about.
Sorry, this has been going on a long time. Apologies.
No, it's all good. It's all good. The more we
haven't even really barely gotten to the bands that were like the most important to me, but that's okay because we can get to that. Go ahead.
We'll get to that. We'll get to everything. So against all odds, you're able to find this music, right? Like the surface level that you're kind of like scratching the surface on what eventually is going to form the basis of the music that you like and the stuff that you're into. The other side of the coin of Soybomb was obviously the skateboarding. So you're moving around a lot. I know I personally started skateboarding to make friends in high school. I'm wondering if like music, as much as a lot of my friends, we became friends because they were wearing a T-shirt of a band I liked, similar to you and your friend who's wearing the Depeche Mode shirt.
Yeah.
So this stuff, music and skateboarding, it's a way to define yourself, but also you're letting people around you know the stuff that you're into, so you can connect with them. Was skateboarding like that for you? Why did you start skateboarding? Was it you just thought it was sick, or you just like wanted to make friends? How did you start skateboarding?
Caught my attention. I think when I was that same summer, I was working as a bag boy at the IGA in Port Carling. There was another fellow. He was also named Scott, actually, if I remember correctly, and he skateboarded. And so just hanging out with him, tried out to skate. And he couldn't even ollie, but he tic-tacked and stuff. And we'd bore his board. And there's two or three of us that got into the idea of having a skateboard. I bought a skateboard off him. It was a Vision Aggressor, it was called. Vision Skateboards Aggressor. It was this old board. And I dicked around on it that summer. Never got to an ollie, never really got much, but I remember bombing the one big hill in Port Carling. I spilled with a speed wobble and gave myself a concussion. I from that point on, I stepped away from skateboarding for a number of years. But at that time, because of my friend, I took an interest in it, and then I started reading the skateboard magazines, and it's the aesthetics of the movement, the motion, what dudes are doing with their bodies to achieve the things they're trying to achieve. That was like superhuman. Like it was not normal. And I didn't think of it at the time, but it's like, because I just thought it was this cool thing, this counterculture thing that like people are doing as an exercise. It felt like it was against society because they're making use of society's like derelicts to do their shit, right? Making use of or working against society to do their shit. Like it's a very strong counterculture thing. Again, I didn't cognize that in that manner then, but it struck me. But one concussion, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to like just tic tac and flat lots for now. And then I think I sold that board, the Vision Aggressor, to my friend, and then never really thought about it again. Music was still my main focus, and it was at the end. I was a young adult. I started skateboarding officially at the age of 21. But I had younger friends in Bracebridge that skateboarded, and they sold me old boards, and I saw a couple skate vids, and I was just hooked. And I think I didn't really think of it back then, but like at the time, skateboarding, especially in the late 80s, was the athletic activity of punks and metalheads. You know what I mean? Like, if you were an agile, physical being that was into punk and hardcore and stuff, you didn't do anything else but skateboard, right? Other than maybe climbing on things and getting into fights with hicks. Like other than that, like that was what you did. That was your physical thing. There was you weren't interested in the team sports. You weren't interested in being a jock. All those concepts, especially back then were the antithesis to everything that seemed important in life, right? You guys are too young, other than Stephen, you guys are too young to understand what it was like in jock culture in the 80s and 90s. Like you don't understand. Like it's right up there with the Christian right and any other stifling cultural phenomenon you could think of. It's awful. Anyways, So skateboarding was indeed tied to me mentally with like punk and hardcore. It was, and you read skateboard magazines. They were also doubled as music magazines because there'd be interviews with like music artists that were the soundtrack of skateboarders. It was like thrash music. It was hardcore. It was even rap. Rap music, I think, got its way, at least like under the radar rap, got its way into like white people's ears through skateboard press, like skateboard magazines like Thrasher and Transworld and stuff. So like these magazines did actually do quite a bit to proliferate like punk and hardcore and rap to this like this skateboarders of North America. You know, it was intertwined, very much intertwined.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're responding to the same kind of stimuli in both without kind of realizing it. Maybe it was subconscious, but you're reading these music magazines and you're seeing the punk stuff and you're like, fuck yeah, that's me. And you're seeing the skate mags and you're like, that's also me. And it's the same kind of thing. It's rebellious, it's counterculture, it's a little dangerous. And I think you're just responding to the same things that are eventually going to inform who you are. So, and especially as a kid, like moving around a lot, that must have been like, I think like everyone's kind of searching for ways to connect to the people around them in the ways that they naturally are. So music and skateboarding is like, it's just ready made. You see a guy skating and you're like, we're already homies. We're already at the skate park. We're already friends.
But again, small town. I had 3 friends that skateboarded. I was lucky if I could get one on the regular of those 3 to skateboard with me. There was no skate park. There was no large community of that, right? So I was still isolated from that. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's the freedom.
Because you have a way to get around. And you don't have to wait for somebody to give you a lift somewhere.
And creativity. Because you could, part of the thing about skateboarding was having your board, finding a thing and making use of that random thing with your board to do some kind of a trick, right? A bent over street sign, a weird little short section of rail, a 2-step at the edge of the drugstore in Bracebridge. Like you're always looking for a new thing to do with your skateboard. So there's a creative aspect to it. But I think one of the thing to take note of too is that skateboarding is, I mean, like punk, hardcore is the mental exercise of it is mental, but it's actually more vibes. It's actually kind of emotional. It's the emotional reaction. It's the soundtrack to your emotional reaction to whatever your material conditions are at that time, right? It's feeding, like you're using it to both feed and be a solve. Is that the right word? Solve, bomb, like a thing to like both amp you up and put you at ease to the conditions that you are in that you're not happy with. And skateboarding was the physical lashing out, the physical catharsis of how you could like push, punish, and express yourself in a way that just felt good, and it wasn't part of that cookie cutter societal thing of like doing that like accepted hobby. Like you felt like you were doing something illegal 50% of the time. You were skateboarding, like you really did. Hell, back then it was that towns, there's so many places across North America, they're making skateboarding illegal, so you couldn't even skateboard down the sidewalk without like taking the risk of being picked on by cops, you know? So you really did feel that skateboarding was checked off a lot of boxes of like what was important.
I was in the Muskoka region this summer, and I saw one of those signs. I'm like, that's the only sign that's still around.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah, skateboarding is illegal.
Wait, where did you see? Was this Bracebridge?
Somewhere up there in that region.
I'm really curious.
I gotta send it to you.
I built the first concrete skate park in Bracebridge. And then they demoed it to make a university campus. So to make it up to the kids, they made a way better skate park over beside the arena. But
how did you get involved in that
session?
Like everything else.
So how did it happen? So we formed a group called. So So I was a part of this. We used to call it Manpower. I can't remember the federal like division was, but the employment thing. They had I don't even know. Oh, it was a girl I was dating, and she had connected with this YWCA program that had programs to pay people to do things in youth groups and youth activities. That time I'm in my early 20s, right? Early mid 20s maybe. And I don't even know how it happened, but I got connected with Susan McLeod from Community Policing. And she was involved with the YWCA, and they had all these things they were funding, and they had this certain program going. So my first thing working with them was being I was the person there sitting at the desk at a youth drop-in center they put in just off of the main street. I don't even know what that position would be called. like
the intake person?
Yeah, the person just hangs out, makes sure the kids aren't killing each other.
Office coordinator?
Yeah. I don't know, like referee. I mean, like, and the kids weren't, they were just happy to have a place to go and hang out. So I was just like, ping pong and music and books. People are just milling about, and I would sit at my desk.
Is this where your love for ping pong comes from?
It started there, but it got more. Ping pong came to a head for me later, a few years, as I've always been a fan of dorky sports. Curling, bowling, mini putt, and ping pong fit that bill. And one summer, my younger brother and I, 11 years younger than me, him and I formed a rivalry around ping pong. And like for a very short time, and then that stuck with me. And of course that, came back at Soybomb. Yeah, it was, the ping pong is a thing. We can get to that at a later time. But anyways,
it's fun.
It's amazing. It can be physical. I never thought about it, but it turned out it can be very physical because you do dives and shit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess we should roll it back. Skateboarding, physical. It's the physical catharsis that is your gut reaction to the society you don't fit in. Much as the music. Did that
skate park come out of like project money from the YMCA?
We had to. Okay. No, they would pay me a stipend to organize kids, but we had to raise the money ourselves. We did a bunch of fundraising. We fell short of our material goals in the early summer, whatever year that was, probably 95-ish, and maybe 96, and Susan McLeod, the woman from Community Policing, actually took money from her own savings to make sure we could finish doing the project. And we had a lot of volunteers. I would just bug everybody. I happened to do a bit of work for a concrete forming company a year or so earlier, so I bugged them to see if they could help me do the concrete work. And the two sons of the guy I worked for came and did a couple days of just hardcore concrete finishing to help me do the ramps and stuff. There was a lot of community involvement of that, and it was very much I was obsessed with it, and I was obsessed with it enough to push the kids and say, well, what do we got to do? One friend who wasn't even that much of a skateboarder, he was into woodworking, so he made a scale model that we used to show to the city. I said, okay, well, what do we got to do to get people interested in this? I'm like, well, we got to be in the press. So we got to do some kind of activity every couple of weeks, and we got to call the local rags to come and take a picture or do something. We have to put this in everyone's face so that it can be accepted, and B, if we're in the papers, there's maybe more likely for acceptance. So in the span of 6 months, we formed this group. We petitioned City Hall or Town Hall and the Culture and Recreation Department and got permission to build a concrete skate park in the middle of this huge recreation park, and had it all done before anyone had time to really think about what had happened. The Culture and Rec hadn't got to think about.
Incredible.
Yeah, got to think about insurance yet, and it was after it was done that everyone started thinking about the ramifications. But just me and the kids went hard. We went hard.
Yeah, we were also calling in favors from a concrete company. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. That's actually really resourceful.
But small town, so everyone is only one person removed from everyone else. So they, everyone's sort of a friend of a friend. So it's not. Yeah. it's not a big leap for someone to spend a day helping out a bunch of goofy kids, right? So yeah.
Did you? So you worked at this concrete company the year before?
For like half a season. That was my introduction to concrete forming. Yeah.
You did stuff in the kitchen with concrete, right?
Yes.
Does that come from that?
Yes and no. My working with concrete gave me a weird little thrill about how it works, what concrete does, the fact that you can like make anything out of concrete, you know what I mean? It's like plasticine but permanent. And so I was always intrigued by what you can make, but it was after I worked in concrete that I started taking to like brutalism architecture and stuff, not even knowing what it was at the time, just like liking cool monolithic like concrete structures and stuff that like took concrete in all its like grotesque simplicity as the main architectural feature. Like I just really took a shining to that. And yeah, I guess you could say it's a lifelong love affair with the material at this point. So
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff.
I was talking to my neighbor about this, and I was saying to him, this is like malleable stone. Like you shape it and mold it into something, and then it's like pretty much it's got structure.
It's infinite possibilities. You're limited only by your imagination when you're working with material like that, and it has so many cool properties. I could talk for hours about concrete. I don't think we should, but I can. Like I absolutely can.
I think what we're seeing here is that there's a lot of these moments throughout your life that kind of like if you kind of put them all together, you can see how something like Soybomb can happen, right? But you don't really realize it at the time. But what's coming to the surface right now is obviously community organizing has been a large part of your life for your whole life. So the community events and the community outreach that you were doing with Soybomb, that's not such a big leap anymore, right?
No, but
because you already had so much experience with that.
But I had I didn't connect those dots till later. I had introductions to other people doing it. So in like 95, 96, I was introduced to the 5 Arlington scene in Ottawa. Two brothers that I'd played in bands with. One of them moved to Ottawa 1 year, and then the other brother moved like 2 years later, a year later. And they fed me CDs and cassettes and records that I'd record off them. And that's where I discovered like Shopmaker, Akara, Uranus, and like a whole slew of bands. That's how I found Dazzling Killman, which to this day, like the Dazzling Killman record, The Face of Collapse, is a mile marker for me, much in the way Second Edition was. In fact, if I take important mile markers in my life, the biggest one after Second Edition is The Face of Collapse by the Dazzling Killman. And if it wasn't for my friends just moving to Ottawa and becoming part of that punk scene, that post-hardcore scene, and then letting me know about it, I never would have found that. Because again, this is still pre-internet, right? Like this is like crazy. But having taken the trek to do like 2-3 trips to Ottawa, probably more actually, to see shows there, I saw how it was super unpretentious, raw, just young adults making music without any intention of like looking at a career, at labels, at like trying to like affect culture above what they were doing. It's like we're all just going to hang out. We're just going to make it about this. And then I learned that same thing was kind of happening across North America at the time. Like, in all the cities, there was this like post-hardcore DIY movement. And so my introduction to that was the 5 Arlington thing in Ottawa. And seeing that was an introduction to organizing on the like very down low musically. And then shortly after, and that was my introduction to a lot of concepts too, like Food Not Bombs and other things. And then a couple years later, a friend went to Waterloo to university, and he got involved with the Food Not Bombs chapter, and I went to visit him quite often and got involved with their Food Not Bombs a couple times. So like that is another form of like community political organizing that also happened because of punk rock. And so I saw these things happening. So when things started to happen with Soybomb later, I had a bit of a mold,
reference?
reference, a not a pattern.
Example?
There's one specific word. A formula. Sorry. There is a formula. I just had to like move a few little pieces of the math around, right? There was a formula to do something that wasn't success. It was just doing that thing, right? And the whole idea that it was this unpretentious thing and the act of doing it was the only intent and reward. And so it was that it made it really easy to have all these small victories that just made you feel like a super awesome. And that shit snowballs. And that's ultimately, if you were to stop the conversation now and we took nothing else from it, it's those tiny little unpretentious victories that snowballed into Soybomb. Absolutely.
Was there other
Interesting that
DIY
you-
spaces that you came across
Not at the time. Not in the 90s.
before Soybomb?
Before Soybomb, there were a few bits of shows that I went to, but they were still sort of like at official kind of spaces. Like I think there are people who you would consider like DIY promoters back then, like Eric Warner or his name, and they would do a show at the Rocket or the Rivoli or something. I went and saw Buried Inside in Mare at the 360 on Queen. It turned out that it was my later friend Chris Woodford who would have organized that show, and I didn't know at the time that was like an evolution out of like the DIY community at the time. In fact, there's a very important show and a lot of connections there because I did not know it at the time, but like Buried Inside were from Ottawa, and they were like the evolution of Ottawa has always maintained one really good artistic DIY post-hardcore metal band. It started with Uranus. They passed the torch to Buried Inside. They passed the torch to Alaskan, and unfortunately past Alaska, and I think it's just They Grieve. They Grieve is phenomenal, but it's the same guys. I don't know if there's a younger group now in Ottawa that's carrying that torch, but there's that connection there from Five Arlington and like the DIY, like those, anyone who was into the DIY post-hardcore stuff, but just held on in their hearts a piece of that metal music that also helped form them. They did some stuff too, and you even see that back in the early parts of North American DIY and bands like Struggle and trying to remember others. Geez, my memory's gonna fade. Hell, even Chokehold, I guess, to some degree. Like bands that like had a very metal aspect, and then that would grow and coalesce into bands like Coalesce and Converge and Cave-In and stuff, because all that stuff was like metal oriented post-hardcore that grew out of the next generation DIY, screamo stuff, right? Sorry.
I want to go back to skating for a minute because there's something that I think is important to talk about, which is the original concept of Soybomb as a skateboard company. Yes.
So I've always been probably in nature of the being on the spectrum and having obsessions, but also trying to knit all those obsessions together in some way. And so by the time we hit 2000, I'm obsessed with post-hardcore. I'm obsessed with music in general. I'm obsessed with skateboarding. I'm obsessed with political stuff. Like at this point, like I've been affected, like the DIY post-hardcore scene of the mid '90s. That introduced me to what was happening in political organizing in punk rock and stuff. Like I remember there's a big, huge PepsiCo boycott because of their late involvement in Burma at the time. It hadn't been Myanmar yet. There was all this I'd been a vegetarian since the age of 19 too at the whole time, so I also had this like ethical disposition that tied into my politics and my punk as well. So I keep as I grow, I keep seeing all this overlap. So my own intent is always trying to knit these things together. And so when I part of me coming to Toronto in 2000 was to take the G107 course at George Brown, and I originally just wanted to learn screen printing because I wanted to do my own screen printing for skate decks, T-shirts, and records. Like just do my own like printing for the stuff I liked. And then, but the year I applied, they canceled the screen printing and incorporated all the legacy printing courses into the graphic design production course, and so I took that. And so I learned all these different aspects of like pre-press and print production, and it was cool. But I never did go work in the industry after that. But while I was there, I always had these graphic projects that had to be handed in. So it was always made in reference to my likes. My main goal at the time was having a band and having a record label, which I never actually did. Quite close, but never did that. But having a skateboard company also seemed like an easy thing to do. You just got to find a board supplier, have a group to skate with, and then the only difference I realized at the time around 2000, the only difference between like one skateboard company and the other, for the most part, because they're all getting their decks from the same fucking supplier. At the time, it was Hard Rock Maple out of Quebec, I believe. Like all the California companies were getting their decks from one spot, more or less. So I realized the only difference between these companies was their marketing, their identity. So on one hand, if I want to like sell skateboard decks as a potential business, then my identity should be the identity of the company. And it's not just the identity as from a marketing standpoint to sell decks. It was also like, well, I'm already like in skateboarding culture, counterculture, like scene. There's a way for me to infiltrate the American mass mind by weaving like politics and punk rock into skateboarding, right? So the identity of Soybomb. So when I first started Soybomb as an idea, it was meant to be, I was messing around with all kinds of graphic design. I actually wanted to do these like late 1800s, like medicine bottle style, like, you know, graphic design. Like these having like the little like line work with like, you know, courier fonts or whatever, all broken, busted up. And I wanted, and I wanted to call the skateboard company Soy Brand. And this was a reference to my, you know, my animal rights stuff and like my nod towards the kind of graphic design I was interested in working in, and making fun of like ripping on old styles of like graphic design and marketing to try and make this subversive like look. And at the time, that wasn't something anyone was doing. And then I said it to my friend, the friend who was going to Waterloo, and I mentioned it to him, and he's like, "Oh, why not Soybomb?" And I'm like, and it just like an explosion went off my head. Like, that's way fucking better. I completely forgot that a couple years prior there was that Bob Dylan thing at the Grammys. Like, it was nothing to do with that. To me, it's like, oh, Soy Bomb. It's that idea of like the bomb wielding anarchists, and the idea of like the alternative to like harming animals is soy. Like, it's representational. All these things are representational. Again, I did not want to be or promote bomb welding anarchism, but it's the imagery, it's the things that these ideas are the stones to be unturned to lead to deeper truths, right? And so these were the graphical ideas that were going to weave together politics and punk rock and skateboarding, and have a way for me to like try and like, you know, touch the world, I guess you could say. So Soybomb, the skateboard company, was based on college graphic design projects and fledgling ideas of like weaving together my obsessions and doing something important with them, I guess you could say. And of course, that went on, bounced around for a few years, and then petered out in the early mid 2000s because I fell out of love, not with skateboarding, but Toronto skateboarders. And that's when, like, at this point, like, skateboarding culture and fashion was so infiltrated everywhere that it wasn't special anymore. Back in the day, you could tell a skateboarder by what kind of shoes they wore. Everyone wore skate shoes by like the early mid 2000s. Skateboarding also was less of a punk rock thing by the mid 2000s. Skateboarding was, people were just listening to mainstream music and cutting their skate vid parts. Like, skateboarding became mainstream. like fully, not just as like the skaters and their participants and enthusiasts, but as just part of greater mainstream culture. Skate fashion was everywhere. Everyone wore skate fashion. Skate fashion companies were making more money selling their clothing to non-skaters and normies than they were to skateboarders, right? Like, it was a big thing. So I fell in love with skate culture. I fell in love with Toronto skateboarders because a lot of them were just a bunch of little chuds who pissed me off. Like, they were not good people and nice people, and they weren't fun to hang out with. Something had changed.
Some of them are still like that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. And again, that's when I realized that skateboarding, as much as I loved it, was not going to be a gateway to social change like I'd hoped it would be. Like, it instead got absorbed and co-opted and turned into something that was the antithesis of what I appreciated out of it, right? And that's when I had to walk away and be like, nah, I'll still skateboard, but, you know, I got a pretty decent career as a carpenter, so I'll just focus on that.
Let's hold on skateboarding for a little bit, because I thought you had moved to the city in 2003, but that's when you moved into Soybomb, like the 156 Bathurst.
Yeah. So Soybomb is technically Soybomb 2.0, because there was a Soybomb 1.0 at Siesta Nouveau.
So I was going to get into that. So you're starting this company and you're living at Siesta Nouveau at the time?
Yes.
Okay, during school. Gotcha. Yeah. So you're starting this skateboard company called Soybomb. You're making the graphics, and you're doing it at Siesta. And up to that point, 5 Arlington and Siesta are pretty much like the only like DIY spaces that you have encountered, or were there other ones?
At that time, Siesta as a DIY space was my space. Lynn, who did Siesta Nouveau as a DIY space later, she hadn't moved in yet. They moved in a month or two before we moved out, and we had one of our parties, and we had a ramp we built in the back lot there. And Lynn, I think, took a bit of a nod from the things we were doing, that she was interested in doing DIY theater, which she did. And then later, I think because the right person showed up at one of her theater events, asked her about using the space to do a show. I think people giving her money to be able to do a gig there was something that was both fun and profitable for her, and that evolved later. So Siesta Nouveau, as the DIY space that Lynn cultivated and grew and evolved, came later. It's interesting we had crossover there at the beginning, but I don't think I can take that much credit for inspiring her. She saw the things we were doing, but it wasn't what she was interested in.
Was it a communal space before you moved in there, or did you make it a communal space? Or
again,
do you have an imprint on that?
Well, the building had multiple units, right? So Lynn had the one in the backside, and I was the one 90 degrees to hers. And just because I think the nature of me just being kind of a very friendly, outgoing guy and going out skateboarding every day and going to shows and randomly talking to people, you eventually like just sort of like a magnet, I would just latch people onto me and pull them with me, right? Like, and it's part of this, I think that's part of that same idea of wanting to knit everything in my life together, right? And like frustratingly like squish everything together to make sense. And so all the people I try and Scotto didn't move until later. Scotto was definitely downstairs, like, yeah, that was important, like fashion machine, oh hell yeah. That's a whole other thing, but they were even later after Lynn. Jordan's mentioning Aykroyd and them, who moved, had a studio downstairs at Siesta Nouveau later in time, like late 2000s. But I was saying, yeah, just squishing everything together, making everyone hang out together, and just like, hey, who wants to do something fun? Let's do something fun. Like, wherever I was, that residence would inevitably become a clubhouse for anyone I could glom onto for some kind of like overlap of interest. And I think that definitely coalesced in what Soybomb was, because I definitely take huge pride in the fact that cool people I like that never would have met one another met at a Soybomb party and then got together to make cool shit later. You know, like, Soybomb was definitely like a crucible Soybomb was a social
It's an
crucible.
incubator for sure.
Yeah, that I don't think I ever, and I never intended it to be that, but it definitely was that more than I could ever imagine or intended. Like, it definitely was that. I took notice that later.
Everyone we've spoken to has those stories, right? Like, oh, I met these people at Soybomb, where that was a really formative moment in my life, and the shows I attended there were, you know, some of my favorite shows where I met these really cool people. We spoke to she's an academic writer, but she met her long-term partner of like 11 years at Soybomb. Awesome. It was just a really sweet story. So nice. So walk me through, like, so it's 2000 and you're going to school and you're living at Siesta, or what was to be Siesta later. What was the city like in 2000, 2003? It's a lot different than what it is now, obviously, but you're coming from all over Ontario, and all over other parts of Canada. What made you want to stay in Toronto at the time?
Access to culture, skateboarding and music was just like, I could only dream of touching it in a rural setting. You know, like, if you're in the city, that's where it's happening. And so I wasn't even necessarily being interested in being a direct participant. I just wanted to touch it. I just wanted to witness and experience and, you know, be on the periphery of riding those waves. Like, that was all I was interested in. But if you are an active participant, you know, you inevitably get more involved than you initially thought you would. Like, as I can see that now. I didn't see that then, but I can see that now. I'm just reading the chat. I don't know if you guys got the Twitch stuff up, but you can see the chat, that the commentary.
What are they saying?
I said
Someone
Crucible. Someone said Cauldron.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? I think Cauldron is more, I mean, if you combine those two, it's a pressure cooker, right? And there's the pressure of the city, and there's also the creativity cooking. And I think that's really what it was for a lot of people. And especially at the time, I think it would have been impossible to know it at the time, but stuff like what you were doing was really, really possible and accessible and a lot easier to pull off. It may have even felt, you know, difficult at the time, and probably did, but when you try to think about that stuff now, you're like, holy shit, you could never do that now, or could you? You know, maybe there are, and we'll get to those we'll get to those questions later. Yeah, everyone has thoughts on that, and you know, they range from hopeful to completely despondent. But so now it's 2003, and you found this loft, and you're moving in with I think you said your brother and one other
and my friend
roommate.
Nate. So all three of us were skateboarders.
Can we ask about how you found it?
Yes, let's ask about
it was
that.
the back of an Hour and I magazine. It was in the classifieds in the back of the music rags, or the local culture rags.
Oh, so
right?
like it was like for rent.
Yeah, it was for rent. So at the time, we were looking for something in the similar monthly rent as what we were paying, and we were looking for something like similar in size. We had a decent sized little loft at Siesta, but we were looking for something that we didn't care if each of us had like a 6 foot by 8 foot place to have a
Like a
bed
closet.
or a hammock, yeah, and the skateboard ramp was going to double as a kitchen. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't care about having a home. We wanted to get a studio where we could have a ramp, and so we were looking at smaller studio spaces around this. And this is a neat time too. Like 2003, the end of 2003. A lot of the older warehousey studio spaces are starting to die because of development, but also people didn't seem to be as interested in them anymore. I don't know why, but like, it seemed like people were desperate to rent their studio spaces around that time. I don't know if people were moving out of the city, or people were looking at these cheap condos as a way to like upscale their lives, you know. I don't know, because that's when condos started to take off too in the city. So at that time, it would have been really, like, you could have got into a condo for under $100,000 like back then. So if you had a relative that could front you the and co-sign a loan, you could get a condo. and have your own like sort of equity. And I hate to put things in those kinds of that framing, but that was a thing back then.
It explains it.
Yeah, so if you were paying like around $2,000 a month to rent the studio, you could own a home, right? Like with the original start of the condo boom. And so I think a lot of people bailed on studios to jump into condos as a way to have ownership. And
to get into the property ladder.
Yeah. And it's
Let me
weird.
ask you,
There's no freedom in a condo though, which is weird.
No, yeah. Do you know if there was that space was used for something else? Because I remember
two artists.
Bruce living around there.
Really? It was two South American artists, an Argentinian and where was Ernesto from? Maybe Colombian.
Yeah, I remember going to a party, like a warehouse party.
I
almost swear it was in that space.
Remember what year?
Long time ago.
A long time ago. I know. We took it in 2003, and Ernesto had it for 7 years before that. And they were two artists, and they had gallery parties in there intermittently. It was a big clusterfuck of a space, but yeah. So they would have had it for 7
that
years.
Space has history.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who had it before Ernesto, but at one point for some time it was a print shop. The back on the second floor at the back used to be an opening where there was probably a door that opened up, and there was an I-beam that they would have used to like lift stuff up, hoist stuff up the trucks, and bring it into that space, like skids of paper and stuff. So
through the back. So
it was definitely at through the back, and it was definitely an industrial space at one point in terms of a print house. I don't know when that finished, and I don't know when Ernesto took it. There could be something else in between there, but those are the two things I know of in the history of the building.
So when you go and look at this place, what's your first impression?
So,
like jackpot?
We go in and it's like, well, because remember, we're looking at something between $1,000 and $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And this place was asking $2,700. I wasn't even interested in looking at it. My girlfriend at the time, Bianca, she's like, well, she twisted my arm and pestered me. Well, you can look. There's no harm in looking. I'm like, fine, we'll go fucking look. So we went there with Bianca and Nate, my roomie, and
begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly. And we get in there. I'm like, oh, this is so fucking sweet. 3,000 square feet. It's like we could do anything we wanted here with no compromises. Like elevated 10 times beyond any of our ambitions. You know, it's like, oh my God. And I talked to Nate, I'm like, we were planning on spending this amount of our monthly paychecks on our rent, but you and I are gainfully employed carpenters. If we triple what we were planning on spending, it's still not that much of a, it's only like a third of our monthly income. Like, that's not that bad. And we get to have this. Doable. Yeah, and we can have this. We're limited only by our craziness for using this space, And he was sold. I was sold. My brother was like, I don't think he had any super direct ambitions he just wanted to come hang out, live in Toronto, hang out with his brother and his buddy, skate, work, and go hard. You know what I mean?
So who was the three? Who were the three people who moved in?
It was my buddy Nate, and my brother Jonathan, and myself. That was the three of us. And Nate. I haven't really totally doxed him, but he's also the graffiti artist Spud. So I haven't said his last name. So. He's the graffiti artist Spud. So if you've seen any Spud graffiti around the city over the last 20 years, that's him. And he wasn't a graffiti artist
wants
moving
to talk
in.
About Spud a bit.
What's that?
Someone mentioned that Spud had lived there, but I didn't know it was one of the OG roommates. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
He only lived there for a couple years at the beginning, and there was a momentary falling out because of that too. We could talk all night about the trials and tribulations of sharing a space with people, and I think that is a worthwhile conversation.
Get into that,
yeah.
Because we have a section. Where we're going to talk about, and maybe Paul can say his first words after getting his mic working.
Yeah, sorry.
In that
Paul's
section.
Quietly
Paul,
just listening. Okay?
Oh, I'm just chilling. I'm just here for the vibes.
How many wines have you
nice.
drank so
Perfect.
far?
All right, cool.
Let's see. Just half a bottle.
Have a bottle, pretty nice. I drank a beer. I had to switch to San Pellegrino because it's a school night. But so yeah, let's come back to the ramp, and we'll get into the roommate stuff for sure. There's like this early period that I keep talking about, right? Where if you take a look at like the whole life of the space, there's this like early section. As far as I can remember, you mentioned before, the mini ramp is finished in 2004, and that was one thing that you guys really wanted to do like right off the bat. You didn't know exactly what the space was going to be. You had all these because it's such a large space, you had all these options, right, and a lot of ideas. But mini ramp was one thing that's like that's has to happen.
Number one.
Number one.
How
thing.
did that idea like
ahead of groceries?
Idea?
So when we were at Siesta Nouveau, we built a quarter pipe in the backyard. And so we rigged it. So if any of you been to Siesta Nouveau, there was that little deck on the back of Lynn's place that like stood before this little parking area where like 2 to 4 vehicles could park. And at the time, no, Siesta was like, you guys don't realize, Siesta was a scuzzy place to live. Like there was often addicts that lived there. It was the guy that who owned the building was definitely like a scuzzy motherfucker. And I know this.
Was that like Lower Jarvis?
Yes.
Lower River, maybe or something
Lower
like that?
Sherburne. Yeah. Sherburne and Esplanade. Lower Sherburne and Esplanade.
That's the one. Yeah.
Big condo there now. But so it was a bit of a sketchy place. But a sketchy place is a perfect place to give you freedom to do whatever the fuck you want, right? So we didn't ask permission. There was rarely anything parked back there, so we built a quarter pipe that we could like haul up and shove underneath the deck if we wanted to, but we could also park it down at the bottom because there was a slight decline from the deck to the sidewalk, and so we'd park that there, and then we made this little thing where we could just like put up a flat sheet of plywood, 4x8 sheet of plywood that sat on the deck, and we actually took out this section of the handrail and we just made it so we just cut up this fucking deck and just made it our fucking skate park. And so we and again, we didn't have permission to do any of this. We just did it. And anytime the landlord said something, we just like, I just hemmed and hawed. It's we'll fix it. We'll keep it fine. Don't worry. We put it away when we're done. We will never get in the way of anyone parking. Blah blah blah. Like that was. I think being able to like be a skateboard park salesman up in Bracebridge in the mid 90s started preparing me to being a salesman to like befriend and be friendly and like grease the wheels whenever there was something I wanted to do that there's no way I would ever get permission to do. So I would do it.
It's like, and then it's referred to as relationship management.
Yeah. Basically,
you manage relationships to be able to enable things like skate ramps to happen.
Yeah. So we did that. We definitely did that, and we skated like crazy. One of the most rewarding things about doing that at that time is there was like a half dozen to a dozen like children that lived on the Esplanade and came by because we were skateboarding.
Oh,
and this was something like, what? There's people, they have a skate ramp, there's skateboarding. So all these children that hang on, they would like razz us too. Like they were kind of little shitheads and like poking at us and like shitting on us in fun ways, but they were enamored by the skateboarding, right? Like they fucking loved the skateboarding, and they won us over and we won them over just through skateboarding. And I think like one of those kids was probably like 12 years old or younger when he came across us skateboarding in that back parking lot. Probably went on to become like a really good skateboarder in Toronto too. I wish I remember his name, but
one of those annoying Toronto skaters.
I don't know. God, I wish I knew actually. But it's one of those things where we just did this thing because we just needed to, and then we become a thing in the neighborhood. It's like, oh yeah, those guys over in the corner of Siesta Nouveau, they set up the skate ramp. All the kids sit there and like throw rocks at them and shit, like and
it's interesting how that seems to happen to you wherever you go.
What's that?
That you go and you go start something, and then the community gets involved, and then other things start to happen, and then the more people get involved. I'm noticing this kind of thing happens to you kind of wherever you go. So I don't know how much of it is luck and how much of it is just you getting onto the right things. But I'm just
both.
noticed. I just wanted to point
I
that
think
out.
you're nurturing people.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, also like I'm studying like human behavior. This is like this is still like an ongoing project of mine, but understanding humans, right?
Yeah.
And I think as someone on the spectrum, I've always found that harder as well, right? So like the only way I can understand human behavior is to fit it into a flow chart of what makes sense. And so all you can do is observe, catalog, and hope to repeat those formulas in the future, right? And I'm dumbing it down, but that's essentially what I've always done. Yeah. And because I've always been a poor kid who just wanted to do some cool shit with no real major ambitions, that endeavor to just try and like grease the wheels to do some cool shit has just greased the wheels until, you know, we just did cool shit, you know. And sometimes I would say the bar never got very high, even with Soybomb. We did some crazy shit there, but I don't think the bar was that high in a cultural sense, you know. So, but
yeah.
But an open space allows people to flourish, right?
Yes, yeah, and
yeah.
I think I needed to have that kind of space, and I think other people would recognize that space would be good for them too. You know,
Right.
So
once the mini ramp is done, then you start like maybe
I didn't have a bedroom
right
for
away,
3
right?
years. The ramp was built in the first 6 months. I didn't have a bedroom for 3 years at Soybomb. Once we built that ramp,
priority.
Yeah, once that ramp was built, all we did was skate. Like
that's real skate rat shit. I love it. So the mini ramps finish early, and then eventually you do have a bedroom, and you start having parties, some house shows, some friends bands.
No, I want to know what was next built. I don't want to go to the parties yet.
Okay, all right. So
sure.
Structurally,
Let's go there.
all right.
Let's go
the
there.
space evolved.
The first thing that was built was the bathroom. And so there was a really gross, crude bathroom that was in there. It was awful. I'd have to draw you a picture to show you how awful it was. Maybe it is worth doing that at some point, Calen, because maybe you can include it in the book, because it was fucking horrid. I don't know if pictures exist. I don't think they do, but I'd have to literally draw it for it to make sense.
Do you know how to do plumbing?
Yeah, at this point, I'm a full-fledged like renovator carpenter, right? I'm still learning a lot of my chops, but this is what I'm doing for a living and had been for quite a few years.
So you get to practice on Soybomb.
Yeah, and of course, I'm working on like really big, expensive jobs, so all the refuse can come home with me, and I don't have to spend as much on material.
Recycle or reuse that stuff.
Those tiles that were on the floor in that bathroom, actually, those tiles are on the floor. Some of those were from like leftovers from job sites, but some of those, the artists that lived there had a whole bunch of old tiles on like glued to boards from like some like tile store that had them as examples to sell. And so we peeled all those off, those like backer boards, those sales boards, and I like worked out a pattern that would work, and then we used that tile for the floor of the bathroom. So yeah, those tiles that Ernesto rescued, probably planned to maybe make art with, I turned into the bathroom floor of Soybomb for the first. The bathroom went through at least 2 renovations. But bathroom came first because we had to have a bathroom. We're going to live there. And then there was 2 that was originally like a commercial space for like a shop, right? So there's that. They originally made just a his and hers bathrooms. And the one on the left became more expanded into a real bathroom. And the other one was just a toilet and a sink. And we turned that into the laundry room. That came maybe a year later. But it was bathroom, Nate and Jonathan's room. Because my goal is always like, got to keep everybody happy that's involved with this project, or there is no project, right? So
there's no space.
Yeah, there's no space. So it's like, we need a bathroom, we need bedrooms, and then we need a kitchen, and then we'll get that
afford it on your own.
Yeah. So my bedroom was the last thing to be built there. Ultimately, the kitchen went through like a 2-stage renovation. But the ramp was the first thing we finished. I guess the bathroom and the ramp were like neck and neck. But anyway,
everyone talks about the kitchen. Where does the kitchen fit in?
So the kitchen finished in 2006 or 7, like the final reno. And at this point, I was just trying to do stuff on the cheap, but trying to have some sort of like gutsy sort of design sense to it. I've always been a fan of what I would call like laboratory chic. I like
What is that? I don't know what that is.
I like industrial spaces. I like laboratory spaces. I like all the effects of like science.
Laboratory.
So like beakers and like test tubes and like big weird lights and like the things you would see in a lab in like the 50s. Not in a modern laboratory, obviously. That's pretty boring. But like an old school laboratory, like, so you're dealing with things where it's like a big concrete
like
slab. Yeah, it's definitely industrial, but more geared towards the requirements of a science lab where something more refined is taking place, right? You're not just hammering metal, you're alchemy, you're using alchemy. So that's what I always tried. I tried to, like, a touch of modernism, a touch of like I'm not an architecture student. I love architecture, but I've never studied it in any even hobby capacity, right? But I could say that some of the things I learned, I remember hearing like a little thing on Frank Lloyd Wright, how he liked to use simple, readily available materials and elevate them into a design that would work in a really cool way. Frank Lloyd Wright, his projects wouldn't require crazy expensive fabrications to be made and installed. You could go to your local supplier to get the materials to make a Frank Lloyd Wright building, and that in itself was enthusiastic to me, because I'm like, yeah, I just need to take what I have access to and try and make something cool out of it. And so the kitchen came out of that. But in this process, the Lee Valley opened up for a few years down in King Street, and went in there one day. There was a book by Fu Tang Cheng about making concrete countertops, which I'd already planned to do, but I planned on doing just making some crude like forms, pour the concrete in place, trowel it, and then give it a epoxy coating and be done with it. And then when I read this guy's book, I realized, oh, you could take that idea and you can actually do something next level. And you can like elevate concrete to an art form in your designs and fabrication. And that's when everything in my life kind of went up a notch into my expectations. So then the rest of the kitchen design had to match what I was doing in the concrete. So then I made the glass backsplash. I'd put these wood surfaces on the like 2/3 of the kitchen. That kitchen was made of like 4 different cabinets, tear outs from like some renovation jobs I was on, and I had to match them all up by like painting them all the same. I had to like Tetris all those cabinetry together so it would like actually work in that kitchen. It was like, and so it was this idea of like, all of a sudden, like, there's no going back. Once I like had that concrete bug in me, everything else had to rise that level. And I was already doing stuff to a very high level for working on, like, you know, my employer's clients' homes, like in terms of the methodology and the quality. It felt like a very pretentious thing to do for my lifestyle, until I realized, oh, I can apply those methodologies to things that aren't necessarily pretentious and like cookie cutter. You can actually provide that, like, you can use those methodologies to make something that is like cool and sort of like at the same time not overly pretentious. I feel that kitchen wasn't overly pretentious, but I don't know. I probably can't be the judge.
People, sorry, go ahead, Calin.
That was it. No, that was it.
Everyone we've spoken to has had like just really nice things to say about the kitchen. Like, they were really impressed. Honestly, the main thing was entering the space for the first time, and their first impression was just like, I've said this to you before, it's like most people's first thought is just, where the fuck am I, first of all, and what is this place? And then they look left and they see the mini ramp, and they see like chain link fence and like super industrial. And then they look right and they see a really, really like nice high end kitchen. And they're like, what's going on here exactly? But I wanted to mention this to you because I don't know how well, I don't know how well you know him, but Nick Marion, who runs the vintage store Expo, and he used one of his store locations at Dundas and Sorauren to have a venue called Expo 1978.
They basically ripped off everything I ever did, it seems, but I'm cool with it.
So
you were their inspiration.
So that's what I was going to say. So Nick told us that he was working at Amsterdam Brewery at the time, and you had come in to get a keg for the kitchen party.
Yeah.
And he was working there, and you were like, "Hey, we're having this party.
Yeah.
You should come on by." So he was at the party that you guys threw for like the kitchen launch, which is many people cite as like the first kind of Soybomb like event proper. And he's told us that since that night, every kitchen design he's had has been influenced by that, by your kitchen design. His countertop is like he's made it the same way, and like, so this is kind of the lasting impact.
He came to that realization in the interview. He's like, you know what?
Right.
I think Jay is the inspiration.
Now that I think about it,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So when we spoke with him, because I mean, I love that venue a lot too, and when you look at it on the surface, they're kind of like, so Soybomb you've mentioned before was like operating like totally illegally. Expo had like kind of the at least the disguise of operating legally, but they were also operating super illegally. And the irony is eventually they got shut down for.
Wait, it's not.
Somebody had.
I was only there a few months ago.
So the 1978 space on Dundas?
The one on Dundas and Sorauren. I saw a few bands there, but the Great Sabatini from Montreal. That was the last gig I was at there. That was
maybe it was
August. That's probably August.
Show.
I think a few months ago. That's probably August.
Right. Yeah. So they when you look at that venue, it becomes clear that like, because now I know that he had been to Soybomb a whole bunch. It's like just a direct descendant. So
very direct.
It's a butterfly effect.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to how inspired some people could be. And it's interesting. Earlier in the conversation, you used the word formula that you had picked up from Five Arlington, right? And if you kind of draw the line, he's picking up on a formula from you to start that venue. I see it's kind of just the way.
I see a kindred spirit who's also trying to like knit everything he likes in life together in one ball, right? Like I
totally. It's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. I mean, he's obviously heavily inspired by not only your place as a venue, but also your kitchen design.
I wondered about that,
he's a very
but
cool
I
guy.
did not know that. That's crazy. Then the kitchen thing, I had no idea about. Huh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legacy pieces from Soybomb.
That's crazy. I never would have thought that of all
if
the
it
things.
Feels like if it feels like a ripoff, just know that it's with probably just the most respect and good intention to sort of
I never felt it was a ripoff, but I did feel like
keeping the spirit alive.
I had no idea that Soybomb was an inspiration, and I thought, is this someone who just heard about Soybomb and figured that's a good idea and just ran with it? Or I had no idea.
A participant.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you finish the kitchen and you guys throw a party to kind of just celebrate, right? So did bands play that night?
Yes. So 90% of the time we had a party, we had bands. So up until I was always in bands at the time, and we didn't get to play or write seriously or often enough. So our whole thing is like we write and practice a bunch of songs, and then our big reward is we throw a party and play to a bunch of people at a keg party. And we've been doing that up north too, like in Bracebridge. That was our formula. We didn't know gigs. We didn't know any gigs that we would fit on. We didn't know promoters. I'd never even thought we were necessarily ready to like even give a demo. We didn't even have demos actually, but we had a lot of songs we wrote and liked to play. So we would have every once in a while we'd have a party, and having a keg party at the house is something that would like everyone in the house would look forward to. I say the house, like the space. And like everyone looked forward to having a big party, right? They tell all their friends and their friends' friends, and you just get a bunch of random people to show up. It was amazing me actually. just word of mouth back then, and like, you know, the first few years in Toronto, we never printed a flyer, we didn't post on social media. It was just word of mouth, and then we would have a like full on shoulder to shoulder rager almost every time with a keg or two of beer. The parties would get bigger and bigger. We'd have to buy more kegs from Amsterdam, and like, and we did it like back then too. Like we had we would buy a keg and we just charge people for a cup like $5 or $10, whatever all you could drink, which would be a fucking shit show. Like, it just, when people can drink as much as they want, that's a shit show. But it was always like, but it wasn't ever anything too crazy too. Like, no one was like brutal in any major capacity. Like, to my knowledge, for the first few years there, when we had a keg party, again, like I say, because it's like word of mouth, it's friend of a friend, you know, maybe friend of a friend of a friend. No one's ever more than one person removed from anyone else in that room. So even at our early parties, there was definitely not a communal, but a friend form of self-policing. You know what I mean? Like, if someone got out of hand, someone was taking care of it, you know? But I don't even remember anyone really getting out of hand. But we tried to combine some of those parties, skateboarding and bands, and we found that we had to, like, okay, we can skate for a little bit, and then we can band for a little bit. We can't do both at the same time. We learned that pretty quickly. But at one point, my one friend, Jaeger, who hadn't lived at the space yet, but he was going out with, was my now ex-girlfriend at that point, Bianca, and he was in a band called Thrown Apart, kind of a metal, definitely metal-oriented band. And I went to see one of their shows at, it's that downstairs spot, North Augusta, near College. I can't think of it right now. All of you know it. Downstairs, like just before at Augusta, just before it hits College, on the left when you're going north. Wait, what?
Well, there's a South African Center and there's a Lion's Den.
It's the basement space just before you hit College on the left side of Augusta, going north.
The South African Center did shows in the basement.
Is that it?
Wait, was it?
I said Coalition, but then I was thinking that came.
It's Coalition. Yeah, it was Coalition.
Oh.
Before that, it was something else too, which I can't remember. But anyways, it's not important. That's where the
Matt did stuff at Siesta.
Yeah, I remember there's someone there who was connected to Lynn too, and I seen a handful of gigs there. But that spot, that gig,
the Coalition started up after Siesta stopped.
That would make sense. I did not know there's that direct connection. That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
would have been interesting to like know that and follow up on that at the time. You know,
Yeah, well, Matt came into the radio show, I remember, because he was just he was starting that space and he wanted people to know about it, so we did an interview about the space.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about, like, you meet so many people and everyone's like going hard at the things they're trying to do, and you're so kind of tunnel vision on the things you're doing that you kind of become blind to the cool people in your like immediate sort of vicinity, your social vicinity, to even realize stuff's happening, and you could go years without even experiencing it, like, which is like cool and very sad too, right? But I just want to backtrack and get to that point though, to that gig. Jaeger's band played down there. They played second, and then the third, I can't remember who the head. Oh no, it was a release gig from them. They were the headliners. And then the band that they had, one of the bands they had opening for them was Raise Them and Eat Them. And Raise Them and Eat Them was Jay and Ken Galbraith, who had been in Catcha before that, and then later Aykroyd and Authors and Augusta and all those other bands later. But I saw them play, and Raise Them and Eat Them was sort of like a mathcore kind of post-hardcore. And I just watched them. I'm just like, this is what I want. I want more of this in my life. Like, just yes, right? And then later I saw them at the Tex-Mex place on College, upstairs, Rancho Relaxo. Yeah. So they, I went there to see Raise Them and Eat Them at Rancho, and Arcada was playing, which was one of Scotto's old bands. And Arcada was like phenomenal, like kind of heavy post-hardcore, like just absolutely like amazing. And that was my more direct introduction to, but I think it was before, maybe it was after that, but no, I think it was in between those two shows. Jaeger spoke to one of the guys, because Jaeger worked at Steve's Music, so he knew a lot of the musicians in all these different bands. And so when I said, well, we're gonna have a party, we gotta get some bands to play, you know, I got my band to play. Bianca knew some friends that she wanted a band to play, and Jaeger's like, I know Raise Them and Eat Them, I can ask them to play. And so Raise Them and Eat Them played, and that was like the first time we had bands at Soybomb that weren't just our immediate close friends that we got to come from around town or out of town to come and play. It was actually like people I didn't know personally. And I was a fan of one of the bands too. Like Raise Them and Eat Them was amazing. And then they played, it was awesome. And then is right around that time. This is MySpace now, right? Like we're now in MySpace time. And so, you know, you find the bands, you follow the bands, you look at the bands you like, you look at their top 8, because their top 8's always going to be these other cool bands. So you check out those bands, you check out those top 8s, and MySpace became this octopus clusterfuck of discovering some of the most amazing DIY music in North America of all varieties. Like math rock was going out of control at the time, and there's so much cool shit. And so at that point, like Raise Them and Eat Them fell apart, but a year or so later, Aykroyd took form. And it turns out Aykroyd took form with Scott from Arcada being in the band too as the bass player. And because I saw them doing stuff on like MySpace, and we had this party planned, I was like, you guys we're throwing another party for sort of a weird late housewarming, like 5 years after the fact. You guys want to like come play it? And they're like, sure. And then along that time, Jaeger was like, well, I mean, you know, we have a much more presentable space, and you know, we can get another bigger band. And he knew the guys from Titan, you know, Woodford's band. And I didn't even know Titan yet. And he's like, yeah, they're a pretty like well-known heavy band. Like we could probably get them to play because they have a DIY background, blah, blah, blah. We said, but we might have to. Now, up until this point, we've never charged a door cover ever. In my mind, we're just having a party with friends' bands. But Jaeger said, we'll probably have to do like a cover, like $5 or something, just so we can throw some cash at these guys for coming out here and dragging out their amps. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. Whatever. So we did that, and it was a Halloween party. No, it was my fucking birthday party. Yeah. The birthday party
April
was...
18th, 2009.
Yeah, that was... I feel like we still did something in 2008. 2008 might have just been more of a kegger... Oh, yeah, because we did a couple parties before 2008 where we were just having parties with kegs and just getting bands that people knew from Steve's Music. So, like, Steve's Music was a core part of the early Soybomb parties, but none of these parties had admission. There was no door people. There was no security. It was all word of mouth. We had a keg, and bands were just coming and playing for the hell of it. And still got, like, lifelong
March
friends.
15th, there was a robot party.
That was that was not a very big party, but that was, oh my god, this could meander into a whole fucking thing. But a friend from up north, Sean Sander, the man who fell off the roof of Soybomb and ripped open his chota on the doghouse next door. Can
we just tell that full story right now before you get into anything
so
else? Because we've heard
stories
about this from a bunch of other people.
Okay.
I just want to get this on the record.
All right. I need to be able to tell the story well. Hold on. So.
It's going to be like half an hour.
No, I'm going to try and make it quick, but I got to paint the picture right. Okay. So, Sanders, definitely a drinker, but I don't know if you could call him an alcoholic, but when he drinks, he goes harder than anyone else. He'll show up with a 2-4 and carry it around, and if he runs out, he'll buy more. He'll offer a beer to anyone within his range of him, then he'll go out and buy more, then he'll go out to bars. He will go out at the end of the night when he's like almost incomprehensible in the English language. He will go out to a McDonald's, buy like 30 hamburgers, and then run around and just start handing them out to homeless people. Like, there was no like filter for Sean. Like, he just would do what he thought was a good thing to do in the moment. But he definitely was the kind of kid that grew up as a class clown and catered to negative attention, right? Like, he was like, if he'd do something stupid, he'd make fart noises, everyone laughs at him, he'd lean into that. And so that, you know, in his teenage into adult years, that grew into a bit of a monster because there was very little in the way of boundaries for him in like trying to be like the infinite class clown, I think, but still salt of the earth and would give you the clothes, not just off his back, but in his whole closet, you know, like, he only wanted everyone to be having a good time. Now, Jordan in the chat there was in a band with Sanders. J-Back, Japanese Beavers Are Canadian, also part of that first major gig. So he knows Sean as well. So anyways, I'm trying to paint the picture of Sean as a person. He would overdo it. He would probably work all week, work 2 jobs, work 2 shifts, not have much going on, go home, you know, he probably might drink a beer or 2 at home, but I'm telling you, he's not an alcoholic. He's a binge drinker. And he would come to the city and he would do things that were inhumanly possible, just like a J-Back for life, indeed. And he would drink to the point that would kill, I think, me or you guys. Like, it was ridiculous. And one of these, and he would want to, like, as time went on, you know, I'd like, hey, Sean, it's midnight. I'm going home, going to bed. I'm sorry, I can't do the rounds with you. I can't run the town with you. I've been working all week. I'm just beat. I'm going home, go to bed, you know? So, but we also know that Sean could potentially get in trouble because people don't always know how to take him, right? So we locked, I said, Sean, we're going to bed, but I'm locking the front door. Our front door at the time, like originally, didn't have a turn latch in it. It was keyed from the inside and the outside. So we could lock Sean in the house at Soybomb. So we locked him into Soybomb, and he just stayed up till like 2, 3, 4 a.m., drinking his beer by himself, alternating between the ramp and the roof. Everyone else is sleeping. And that's the setting. Okay, sorry, it's a bit long-winded. That's the setting. I wake up early that morning, go to get coffee. Oh, no, sorry. Bianca wakes up. She's opening up the store. She worked at a grocery store. She's going to open up the store. And when she leaves, she texts me, said, Jay, there's a whole bunch of blood out at the front door. I don't know what's going on, but, you know, maybe check stuff out when you wake up. Also, I haven't seen Sean anywhere. So I'm like, what? I get up. I also look for Sean and can't find him. He's not on the roof. I see the blood out front. And I don't know what's going on. And so I'm walking around. Someone of us, I think, no, you know what? I just randomly called the hospital. We couldn't find any sign of him, and I saw the blood. So I called the hospital, like the Toronto Western. And I was like, do you have someone in the hospital by the name of Sean Sander? And they were like, yes, you're a family member? And I'm like, no, I'm a friend. I'm down the street. It's like, well, I can't give you any information, but yes, he's here in the hospital. I'm like, oh my God, all that blood is probably have something to do with Sean. Oh my God. So I call his mom. I'm worried that he's dead. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. For all I know, Sean is dead. There's a lot of blood on the front of the door. And so I call his mom, because I had his mom, like I knew his family, right? So I call his mom. I tell his, I was like, Joanne, I don't know what's going on, but Sean's in the hospital and he probably lost a lot of blood, so I don't know what happened. This is what Joanne said. Joanne said, Jay, I've been waiting for this call for years, because, you know, even his mom knew him to be a bit of a wild man. I mean, to paint another quick little portrait of Sean, he once got arrested walking down Main Street, Bracebridge at 3 a.m. in the morning, pissed drunk, waving a double-ended dildo around in the air. Like, in small town Bracebridge, that's not a thing, you know? It's like, he had no filters. You know, he just wanted to be goofy and whatever. Anyways, So I called Joanne. Joanne called the hospital. She called me back and let me know what was happening, saying he's there, he's alive, we're coming down. We don't know the full situation yet, but it is dire. I'm like, oh, fuck, right? So we go to the hospital. We meet up there after. I think Joanne and Sean's sister, they stayed at Soybomb for a couple days while we're figuring stuff out. And eventually we were able to go up and see Sean. And it's weird. Like, we spent the next week going and visiting Sean in the hospital. The original plan was to go there and like keep him company while he's in recovery and try and keep his spirits up because he's gone through a major traumatic injury. But I'll be honest with you, I was eager every day to get off work and go see Sean, not just to keep him company, but because he was entertaining us. We would go hang out with him. You know, it'd be 3, 4, 5 people hanging out at the hospital, and he was just such a personable, funny guy. Like, I would look forward to hanging out with him because I was going to be the one getting entertained to visit him in the hospital, not us entertaining him. Anyways, backtrack. He had no direct memory for months of what actually happened. Later that day, I went around back, saw that there was the doghouse next door was crushed. There was a trail of blood that went through a neighbor's yard. This is 2 stories down, up the fence, over the fence. He climbed over the fence, down a big, huge copy machine that had been sitting there, and it was covered in blood. And then the trail disappeared as it goes out to Richmond. So some of this, at the time, he didn't know how he fell off the roof. But he does remember at one point being drunk, climbing over that fence, thinking he was trying to find his way back to Soybomb because he was coming home from the bar. He didn't realize he'd just fallen off the roof and was all fucked up and wasn't even at a bar. And then he climbed over the fence, and this part he remembered. He went around to the front of Soybomb. We had no doorbell yet. The door was locked. He banged at the door. He figured, well, I can't get in until everyone wakes up, so I just got to sleep on the front stoop of Soybomb. So he walks up to the corner, the Queen and Bathurst, opens up the Eye and Now magazine like boxes, grabs a bunch of the papers, comes back down to Soybomb, and makes a nest in the front door to sleep. While he's sitting there getting ready to go to fucking sleep, two homeless guys from the neighborhood walked up to him just to check in on him. Hey, what's up? You okay? You need anything? You got a smoke kind of thing? He's like, no, I think okay. And he starts talking with them because Sean was just that kind of guy, talk with anybody. And then while he's talking with these guys, one of the guys that stopped talking to him looks and sees, and now Sean is sitting like sitting on the ground with his feet out and his back up against the door, right? And as he's sitting there talking to these guys, he's wearing these like insulated work pants. So like work pants that have insulation for working out in the cold. He's wearing these. And while he's talking to these guys, one of the guys noticed there's blood starting to trickle out the bottom of his pant leg. He's like, dude, you got blood coming out the bottom of your pant legs. Are you okay? And Sean's like, I don't know. And he's like, what is bleeding? And he puts his fucking hand down his pants, he said, and he pulled out, and it was just a curdled mass of blood. Like, it was so much curdled blood that it was like solid chunks. It was this gross curdled mass of blood he pulled out. And the two homeless guys went out and like flagged down a local condo dweller walking their dog and said, do you have a phone? Can you call 911 right now? This guy's all fucked up. Can you please call an ambulance? So these guys saved his life. So if they hadn't stopped to talk to him, he would have fucking went to sleep and he would have bled to death, because as we found out later, he lost, I think, 3, 4, 5 units of blood while going through this ordeal. And the doctor said 1 more unit of blood, there would have been no coming back.
Oh my God. That's so gnarly. That's like...
Yeah,
it's the first part of that is funny, and then the last part of it is just it's so serious. But thank goodness for those people that saved
his life. They fucking saved his life.
It's unbelievable.
And
I mean, I thought that was gonna be like a funnier party story, like, oh, I just fell off the roof, but I was okay,
alone
kind
and
of
drunk
thing. Like
on the
that's
roof. And
yeah, that's so dangerous.
and then and immediately falling down, I was like, okay, we need handrails everywhere. So I just designed this handrail system for the entire roof. Because before it was just a few was up there hanging on the roof. I never imagined someone would fall over the edge. Because it only came to about like thigh height, that parapet around the roof. Like it was low enough you could like sit on it. And we found out months later what happened. He was watching a movie, some like B-grade movie at home up north, and he and there's like a gunfight at a wharf district with like sea cans and like pallets, and he saw the pallets and it just fucking slapped him in the head. He's like, I was on the roof. I went to take a piss, and as I walked away from taking a piss, I tripped on a skid, a pallet that was up there, and I took he tripped on the skid and veered towards the edge of the roof. He was like, oh my God. And he actually like grabbed the edge and turned himself around. He almost saved himself. But he just turned himself around so that he actually fell ass first. This probably saved him too, because if he hadn't grabbed that, he would have fell head first off the end of the roof. But he grabbed the edge of the parapet roof and he ended up twisting himself around in the air, but he landed ass first. Now this is where it's bad. It's a plywood doghouse. He crushed it, but his chota landed right on the gable peak at the front of the doghouse, and that pierced him. And gave him what we've always affectionately called his mangina, and and that's the story.
It's
of
good
Sean.
that he can find the humor in it.
But he provided that humor, right?
Yeah, totally. It sounds like that's the kind of guy he was, or is. It's people talk about like drunk drivers that they survive those crashes because they're so drunk that the body just becomes like rubber. That may have actually saved him as well. It put him in that predicament,
so
but also might have saved.
All the alcohol in blood has probably got him bleeding out too, though.
Yeah, and sterilizing the wounds as the blood's coming out because it's so alcoholized. Maybe I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor.
I just I want to keep going. I'm conscious of time here because I don't want to take up your whole night, and I think we do want to have multiple conversations.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So I think we're good to like.
Do we want to utilize Paul while he's here?
Paul is here.
Oh, okay. We want to wrap it up. Paul, do you have anything to add to anything?
I absolutely want to talk to Paul when we get into all the like when we get to the section
living
where we want to talk about
stuff.
like what was it like living there, the roommates, how things worked, what was like the roommate like selection process, like that kind of stuff. So I do absolutely want to get into that. Just a couple updates or not updates. We've spoken about this briefly, but just a couple ideas we've been kicking around. So we would really love. I know last time we spoke, you were in the thick of it, right, with planning the last show and moving totally out of the space, and so it was a pretty crazy time for you. But eventually, I know you have boxes and boxes of stuff to like
still
that would be incredible to be scanned and put in the book. So I'm wondering if we could schedule some kind of like meetup where I could kind of rifle through your personal belongings and scan some stuff.
What is your timetable for needing to get to that? Because right now, so when we first started talking, we're organizing the last show. Then and after organizing the last show was me coming to the realization, then being diagnosed with severe arthritis in my hip. At the same time, dealing with that, trying to slowly decommission Soybomb and get out of there, and that took months.
Yeah.
Then I went back to work and did a couple large reno projects after that kept me preoccupied, and then coalesced to this like recently I've got my hip replaced and now I'm convalescing, which gives me more time right now. But I have never, since all the stuff came from Soybomb and went downstairs, it has not been touched. I have not had the time to deal with it. So there are some things I think I could get at right away, A, but B, some things I cannot get at, and C, I don't even have a space right yet to unfurl, to pull this stuff out and look at it. I would say another week or so before I'm well enough to go downstairs, start putting away my shop like I'd hoped to get to before the surgery, but I didn't. And then once the shop's put away, I have a well-lit area with a fabrication table that's easy to start pulling stuff out and looking at stuff. But the timetable for that is like 2-3 weeks. Does that work okay for you, timetable?
Totally. I would like to. So actually, funnily enough, next year will be 10 years since the original closure, right, in 2017. So releasing the book sometime in that year would probably line up nicely. So we do have some time, and there, I still need a whole bunch of time for design. I'm just we're gathering all the interview material and all the photos still. So we're still like a ways away from any kind of finished product, but and I'm still recovering myself from knee surgery, right? I'm not really mobile right now. So I'll need maybe it's a matter of months for me. Okay. But at some point during the summer, if you're okay with it,
easy peasy, for sure.
If we swing by,
it's something I have to do anyways. Like approaching that pile is something that is on the immediate list anyways. How far are you from your surgery?
I had surgery.
No, how far are you from since you had it?
Oh, a week.
What? You're only a week out? That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 3 weeks out from mine.
Yeah.
Paul, you had any surgery?
It's tough. Paul's just here for vibes.
Not yet.
I'm just here for vibes. Don't make me
just here so I won't get fined. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure it was okay with you. But there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that should be scanned and in the book, right? I think you would agree.
I did save all the old ramp surface too, the first gen and the second gen. So that idea, if you want to do a special edition of the book where the cover is made from the ramp's MDF, that is a thing that can happen.
Let's keep that. Let's play around with that idea. I do next conversation we have. I have some cover concepts I can show you. Cool. I've been working on it a little bit. That'll be fun. The second thing that we were talking about was Paul has a whole bunch of recordings, and we're talking about doing a handful of your selected songs, Paul's selections of songs, and pressing it onto a record
and
to release with the book.
Part 3. Paul knows what I'm talking
Trilogy
about.
6.
Trilogy 6, yeah.
Yeah, you guys choose 8 to 10 songs, and we'll press it on a record, and
we'd have to get a lot of permission from a lot of bands. That would be hard. Some of them would be easy, some of them would be hard.
I think
whatever. If they say no, then we can't use it, and we'll choose something else, right? Yeah.
We get a short list and see what the vibe is.
Oh man.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of stuff.
So because Chris, is it Woodford? I think it's Chris Woodford or Callahan. I get them mixed up because I don't know them personally, but one of them has a record label, right? I think it's Chris Callahan.
Well, Woodford does, but Callahan might too, to be honest with you. He's a prolific dude.
Oh, they both do. Okay, that doesn't narrow it down. All right.
But Woodford's label is predominantly metal oriented, but I could see him having a soft spot for doing a release like this.
Yeah, so whatever makes sense. I mean, I took a look at some initial numbers through Precision Record Pressing, their online their website, and it's relatively inexpensive to press your own records now, which is great. So that's just an idea we were playing with. I think it's very doable within the time frame that we have. So I think we should do it.
All right. I mean, I'm 100% into that. I don't know if I brought it from Soybomb or if I left it, but I had Suzanne, my partner's dad, was a house painter his whole life, and that's like a professional house painter of a type that does not exist in this day and age. But one of the things he also did was wallpapering, and he had this roll of wallpapering that I inherited from him, and that is this really interesting 60s thing. But when I say wallpaper, it's not paper, it's like a linen, it's like a printed fabric, like a canvas almost. And I've been wanting, one of my things to do with that was to sew it into record sleeves and do a monoprint on it as a as something if I was ever going to do a release. So that
Just like
option
an
is there
insert.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck it, let's do that. That's awesome.
Might need to take a look at the print first though.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think Steve's just had to go out and walk his dog briefly, but he's back.
I mean,
and we were just talking about
I mean, you can see it. I could talk forever, but I understand everyone's got schedules and timetables. But if there's any, I mean, if there's any particular things you guys want to know, you could shoot me the questions so that I can be maybe more prepared and more pointed when we do talk. So that maybe I meander less. Sure. I considered like, I should have said this earlier, but I wasn't sure if I should take my ADHD meds today because it will generally keep me from meandering a little, but it'll also keep me up all night if I take them too late. Yeah. And if I take them early, beginning of the day, it'll make me want to crash a bit more towards the end of the day. But with me not being on the ADHD meds, it does mean I'm kind of driving us all over the goddamn place, as you guys have seen.
That's totally
I'm not finding
fine.
it a problem, actually.
Yeah, me neither.
And we have a Google Doc with the questions in it, which I think we should share with you because
we should definitely share with
it gives you
for this conversation. Yeah, this was kind of our way of like staying on track and like kind of having some direction for this. But I think we'll take out the stuff that you've already addressed and then just shoot you for the next conversation, the stuff that we would like to dive a little deeper on.
For sure.
And then, Steve, while you were out, I was floating the idea to Jay about swinging by his place at some point in the summer or kind of later spring and grabbing a whole bunch of stuff to scan and stuff like that.
I've saved a lot of precious posters, so I have a good chunk of those. That's the most immediate ephemera I can think of.
That's the bulk of what we're looking for. Yeah. But if there's other stuff, obviously we can.
I think there's stuff we would find in the process. Be like, well, this is like probably worth documenting whether it's used in the book or not. I filled like a giant room with all the stuff I brought from Soybomb, and I only plan at keeping 40% of it at best. Some things I will sell, some things I will try and find a good home for. I just haven't had time to deal with it. But all of it is relative to what happened and what the goals were at Soybomb. So I don't know. Like we could, if we get it, so we can walk through it. It will all tell a story, all of it.
Yeah. But let's plan that for sure. But immediate next steps would be let's schedule the next call. It would be great if Suzanne could be a part of it, actually, because she was a big part of the space, no?
Yes, I 100% think that. I don't know what she would think about that. Maybe that's one of those things where maybe not live streaming it, and maybe we just just you talking, or maybe just the three of us.
We could schedule something separate with her for sure. Because I actually have a funny story where Suzanne yelled at me, rightly so, during a show.
Oh, I want to know that story so bad. Yeah,
for next time, I'll tell that story.
You wouldn't think so, thinking back to Soybomb times, but Suzanne has social anxiety, and will just absolutely refuse any contact she doesn't immediately feel comfortable with, which is like 99%, to be fair. So it has to be a very specific, I think, surroundings where she might be comfortable enough to do that.
Totally fair. And actually, Paul requested that his interview be done over a Google Doc as well. So maybe that's something that we can send to Suzanne if she can fill out some answers at her leisure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, if shoot me questions. Like, as you see, I'm comfortable shooting from the hip, but I also can if I have some time to think about it, I can form some more coherent thoughts, I think.
Cool. That makes sense. Steve, do you have anything to add?
I do. Paul, I don't know if we've been talking to Chris Woodford about some of the audio files that you have. And Chris seems very interested in doing a comp.
We briefly talked about that, I think, while you were gone. But I have the files. I don't know if I have the time. I mean, it seems to be doable.
That would be... There'll be a lot of mixing. Okay, how about this? Instead of shooting...
That's another project, for sure.
A gigantic compilation, what if we just start it as a 7-inch, 1 track each side, and the hopes that maybe it could become a series. So that way we won't have to deal with 1 or 2 bands for release. And then Paul and or myself has much more leisure time to do the mixing and editing, because there's much less to work with then. Those are more realistic timetables to approach a project like this.
I mean, the other option is, here's the files, you guys mix it. That would be
that's an option.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else could mix it.
What if I do the mixing and then bug you once in a while?
Say it again.
What if I mix it and bug you once in a while?
How about it? I just don't. I'm looking at the current state of my year, and I'm like, I think summer might be the only time that I would get a chance, but then it always fills up with festival gigs. So I'm like, I don't know when I will get to it.
What if you only had to think about one song? Sorry, this is the thing about Discord or digital meetings. Everyone's lagged behind 1 second.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, Paul, what if you only had to mix 1 song this summer?
I can figure that out.
We do a series.
Okay.
Recordings from Soybomb, 2 tracks. You mix one side, I mix the other.
I like the idea of a big thing. But I don't know.
A bigger compilation. Because I was thinking of like a 10-inch, and you could probably only do like 6 to, depending on the length of the songs, 6 to 10 songs. If you guys come up with a short list of like,
it's a lot of work on Paul's end. I'd be up for any format, to be honest with you, but if Paul wants to just pass it on to someone else who'd be wanting to work with us, that's doable too. But it'd be nice to have Paul's hand on it as well, right? Like, having Paul's hand on it would be kind of meaningful to the project, you know, like, my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. I mean, that's hopeful. At least we can continue that conversation. It's not, we do have like a year, more than a year. So we can keep talking about that. All right. Thanks so much for your time, guys.
Right.
I really appreciate all the time and effort that you guys spent on my project, and I'm just trying to do.
I'm glad you've been like
best work possible.
I'm glad you got Steven's help. I'm glad you guys have been barreling through it, because if it were left in my court, it would take a decade. I think. Just part of my ADHD, but
do the 20-year. Do the 20-year anniversary.
Honestly,
20-year anniversary, yeah, exactly.
Oh, that to bring it back to where we just ended the conversation, that very first show where we charged an admission, it was J-Back, Japanese Beavers Are Canadian, which was like an angular kind of noise punk outfit, very cool, mathy and neat. Then it was Ackroyd, the Sudbury guys I mentioned, and then it was Villepend, who like absolutely I became enamored with over the years because of their sort of like, there were moments in their song structures that remind me of Akara and stuff with the riffing. Like, I loved Villepend. And then Titan. And that was like, and all the gigs we've had, and I've had some of my musical heroes perform at Soybomb, but that first gig sits with me as one of the best gigs we ever had, because every one of those bands was a fucking champion in my mind. And I'd hoped, like, bad things happened in my life that the 10-year anniversary couldn't happen. But I'd wanted to do a 10-year anniversary where I could get all those bands to do a revival and recreate that lineup. Maybe we can shoot for the 20. Everyone will be fucking...
Yeah, Soybomb 2.0.
Yeah.
New space.
Yeah,
one
I shared
gig.
with you a doc that we've been building in a Google sheet that has the best... well, I'm not sure it's the best, but it's what we collected from a lot of various sources for the events that were taking place.
Yeah.
At Soybomb. I'm wondering if you could have a look through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I would like to add to it too. I still think like part of the onus for live streaming this conversation is that if we get people participating who were, I just realized I've been live streaming on like Facebook too, and I haven't got the Facebook chat up. So if anyone's been talking, I've missed all of that. That's bad. It looks like it's okay. But getting people from the community to participate, because other people have like probably recollections of things that I've completely forgotten about, like 100%. And I'm sure there's a lot of point. Like I couldn't count the most intense, amazing moments I've had at Soybomb on all my hands and toes. You know, like I just couldn't. There's so many.
Yeah, people's memories also change and adjust.
Yeah,
but I think the sources for these were like there's a Google Doc that you had prepared, and there was and that other people had added to, and then there was a lot. We went through tons of the Facebook to the 2 Facebook pages that were set up for Soybomb, and transferred all the detail into that.
The details on the page. That's funny. There's a project I started and then just got to continue with documenting all the gigs that happened there. Because it just started.
I think that's what Stephen was picking up on.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's the Google sheet we worked from.
God damn, that's
and not
awesome.
to give too much away, but it's part of a design too.
Yeah, that's gonna be a part of the.
I don't know if I'm letting this out.
It's gonna be very.
But
there is no. We'll show them next time.
Well, there's some content I plan to live stream in the future intermittently on these platforms. It's been on the back burner, but I've wanted to document the Southern Ontario post-hardcore family tree, because everything's connected to everything, and I've wanted to map that out. So, and there is overlap from that family tree with like Southern Ontario, like hardcore and metal as well. So it's this like vast project I want to complete one day, or at least move forward. But the reason I bring that up is the one thing I want to do. I didn't go through with it because my landlord ended up selling, the place to the condo developers. But one of the next projects I had planned for Soybomb, especially because we had to move that stuff. It used to be that platform above the stairs in the hallway where we just store stuff out of the way. And the fire people said you couldn't have anything in a stairwell. I think that's something we could have fought actually, but it wasn't worth it, so whatever, we just took it down. But once you took it down, I was like, you know what, I'm going to paint all this, and then I'm going to map out from like floor to ceiling, from the first floor to the top of the second floor. I wanted to paint out that Southern Ontario post-hardcore family tree on the walls. When you came into Soybomb and came up the stairs, you would have seen this map of this network.
Is it like Metal, a Headbanger's Journey, that family tree that Sam Dunn created?
It would have been, I'm not sure what that one looked like. I never actually saw that. I'm admitting a crucial piece of history I've missed out on, but I don't know how
it's in Metal Evolution.
Yeah, I know of it. I definitely know of it. I just never seen it. I think I even have it downloaded on my PC somewhere, but he's
an archaeologist by trade.
Oh, that's wild.
Or not by trade, by schooling, I guess.
Well,
he basically applied family tree genealogy to metal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Matt Bomback, who was in Fox Mulder, and was like a revolving participant at Soybomb for years. He's a what do you call it? He's a graphic designer, but he's an infographics graphic designer. So he used like I'm not sure what he's doing now.
Special trait.
I'm not sure what he's doing now, but he was working for like the Globe and Mail and like other news agencies, like doing this. I always wanted to rope him in on the project because, like, I actually find that career fascinating as fuck. An infographic designer.
It's it's a talent.
Yeah, it's wild.
Very
and cool.
special breed.
Yeah,
of designer.
But anywho, yeah.
Hey guys,
projects that come out of Soybomb in the future could be many and varied, if just to satisfy my OCD archivist obsessions.
Well, none of this stuff gets done without collaboration. So thanks to you guys for getting involved, and we're getting a lot of other people involved. So this is how this stuff happens, right? That's the reason.
Thanks for Paul for putting this all together.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm glad you guys got a hold of Paul, and Paul kind of like, he didn't work too hard at it, but he pokes me. Paul pokes me, gets me off my ass. It's good.
That's good. All right, so we'll go ahead and schedule the next call, and we'll send you that Google sheet so you can get familiar with some of the questions we were going to ask, and we'll keep chipping away at this. But this was so much fun. I can't wait to do the next one.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for
Cool.
being interested in what was my life's work. That's it. I have no life anymore. I'm not working
the
anymore.
audio file. How do you want to get the audio file?
As long as you can save it at some point, like, I guess we'll see if it's something like taking the.
Like I'll send it to you through Swiss transfer, but we need a file too that we need to transcribe.
I can send you. I mean, every one of the platforms I've streamed to will have the video there, and you can various ways you can just download it directly. Like, but there's gonna be.
Do you know how to do that, Calin?
I'll send you guys links as soon as we're done. I'll send you guys links.
Okay,
but
thanks.
the video's gonna be up on YouTube, like the uncut video of what we just all talked about. That's gonna be on YouTube. It's gonna be on Facebook for a little while, and it's gonna be on Twitch for about a month, 2 weeks to a month. The best quality VOD for visually is on Twitch, but it doesn't stick around very long. But I'll send you links to all three, and then
Okay, great.
there should be a way to download. And if you guys have, and I'm also been like, while I've been live streaming, I've been recording this as well, which should be the best quality version. So if I am able to cut some content out of this for uploading on YouTube, I would use that video.
Can you just send me the full audio file from your recording?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. And
that would be the best, because I could just I need to transcribe that. Yeah.
Actually, I can even just the easiest way is to take the YouTube video, put it in one of those websites, and just rip the MP3 right from it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But
so
yeah. Well, message me tomorrow. Remind me. I'm usually in a caffeine fog for the first 2-3 hours of the day. So. Right. And again, I'm convalescing from this surgery until the end of April, so there's plenty of time to go over stuff as well. You guys have me almost as much as you need me for whatever you want to get out of this.
Right.
Perfect. That's great to know. We're going to bug you constantly.
All right. Excellent.
All right.
All right. Paul,
okay.
when I can walk and you're around, let's do a dinner.
I leave for tour in April. So March I'm around.
Okay. Oh shit. Yeah, that's probably doable. We'll talk after. All right. All right. Good night, everyone.
Have a good rest of your night.
I'm looking at screens. I'm looking at cameras. There you are. See you guys.
Okay.
See ya.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Bad. Let's see. How does this work? Well, there was, I felt like that was only skimming. Like that was just skimming the surface of like I feel like we talked about it for like 2 hours, and I feel like we just set the table. You know what I mean? I feel like we set the table. We haven't even gotten to the appetizers. Like there's so much. Yeah, there's so much. I'd like. And the thing is too is like the book, like the scope of the book as I originally understood it is more of like a very design oriented book that I think captures the broad strokes, and I think has more of a focus on, where I think the idea is that like the vibe is captured in the layout, and and that captures the broad strokes of Soybomb, but the ethos, the core fundamentals of what Soybomb is captured, I think, in the selected right moments, so that, saying less with more, like maybe the John K. Sampson way of writing. The Anne Proulx, the distillation, I think, like if there's a limit of what can be put on the pages, then you really have to distill the content to its finest moments, and only Calen and Stephen, I think, can figure out what those are. So if I want them to pick the best moments to put in the book, then I am going to have to barrage them with shotgun blasts of anecdotes and stories and memories, so that hopefully the right thing hits them, in a way that like stokes them, and like there's something, like there's a kernel there that is important, and we will work with that. Because I honestly don't think, like, it's funny, like I think they noticed things from tonight's stories, but I never did. Like, I really feel like I was just skirting around the edges of like this, my life as a structure and how it came to that moment. But I don't think we dove into the analysis of the crucial things that like drove me. It was just skimming, you know? But how do you like, and it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, that there's stuff that came out of this conversation that I never even knew, you know? And also like I can see like Steven's like noticing things and patterns and asking questions about that, and I'm just like, oh, he's onto something there, and I don't know how to respond to that. And hey, Paul, Twitch is fucking dumb. It you know what though, as a live streaming platform, like Twitch is the best live streaming platform. It's why I still use it. Like it's still not the most used, the most well known, but if you want to live stream on the regular, it has more tools and more capability and more functionality than anything else. And more quality and stuff too in a lot of ways. Like it's there's no other platform that really does better. But it is, yeah, it can be fucking dumb. I do, one of the things I like about Twitch is there's a lot of power under the hood, but on the surface it's pretty dumb and straightforward, which is why it's so well used, loved, and accessible by all the worst people on the internet. But anyways, yeah, no, and yeah, Calin was seeing things too. As I'm telling these stories, Calin's drawing like a thread through things that I might not have taken the time to draw that thread myself, you know? So that's pretty cool too. Like I'm getting insights about both myself and Soybomb by talking about these things, you know, with someone who's interested in collecting the stories. So I rather do like that. Anyways, I do have to pee. I would stay up late and hang out and do some things but with you guys, but I have to pee. It's like, it's late. If I'm lucky, I can watch an episode or two of Jujutsu Kaisen with Suzanne before she goes to sleep. I've since Jujutsu Kaisen season 3's come out, I've gone back and rewatched the first 2 episodes, and I'm watching it, and I've made Suzanne watch it with me, so because like Jujutsu Kaisen is my favorite anime, and so I need Suzanne to like my favorite anime too. This is relating to the conversation we had tonight. Fuck you, Bass. But this is relating to the conversation we had, like, where like I have interests and I need my interests to overlap for some reason. I need to draw a meaningful conclusion with all the things I love. Yeah, codependent, I guess. But it's not that I'm codependent. It's like I'm forcing codependency on other people. I don't know if that makes sense. I was like, no, I need you to like this too, you know? Because it's really awesome. I think it's the best thing ever. So I need you to also understand that it's the best thing ever. It is mental illness driven behavior, you know? Like, it really is. Social penis potato. Wait, what? Baz is a poet. I mean, might be hard to tell from that, but he is a poet. Speaking of reducing meaning to as few words as possible, Baz is a poet. Oh, dictator. Jesus Christ. But anyways, I'm gonna pee. And if I'm lucky, I get to watch a episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, because we just finished the prequel movie, and now we're gonna start season 2, which is a further flashback, but it's amazing. And I'm a minor weeb. I'm not big into all anime. I just like the good stuff, and Jujutsu Kaisen is the best stuff, just hands down. So, good night, everyone. I bid you adieu, and I hope we can all hang out via this weird format in the future, because I do enjoy talking. I'm not sure if you guys notice, but I probably dominated 95% of the talking through this entire evening. So it is a curse and a gift, depending on the circumstances. So if you guys want, we can talk more in the future. All right. All right. Horse Crisis for Life. Good night, everyone.